What's up, folks? This is Moose, aka Big House, man. It's Tuesday, and y'all here at the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. What's good, everybody? Hey, we do it on Zoom, so you can see us. And somebody didn't do their job. They're supposed to remind me to hit the record button. So here we go. Now hit the record button. Yes, we got the record button hit. Hey, there's a lot of buttons to push over here, by the way, at Control Central Headquarters. So anyway. Yeah, well, I don't know about that. Hey, I tell you what, I am freshly showered, and I like my socks. My socks say "Carpe the F out of this DM," so I think that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna carpe the F out of this DM. So only one sock says that because my socks don't match. It saves me about 15 minutes every laundry day. All right, so folks, we also have LGZ and Baku in the house. He's a star of the show. What's happening, buddy?
Oh man, it's an honor to be back, man.
I'm glad. For some of the folks who don't know, folks, we LGZ lost his mom now 4 weeks ago, about a month ago, I guess.
2 weeks ago.
Was it that? Is it that? It seems like forever.
Yeah.
My gosh. And the other voice here, that smooth voice here, that's DJ Longgreen, who lost his mom also a couple weeks ago. Man, the heavy hitters had struggled the last couple weeks. But I tell you what, we stayed together. We kind of checking on each other, and now we back to do a show. So, Long Green, how you doing, man?
I'm hanging, brother. It's some adjustment, man. Just having lost my mom on the 5th, and just trying to figure out life. But the mission continues, especially as it relates to our community and our city. So. I'm glad to be back this week and ready to get some good food for my soul.
Outstanding. And hey guys, I don't know if you heard it or not, but we got the lady of the house is also here. That's the one, the only Run.
Hi guys, happy Tuesday. Hey, today you can also call me Slice Baby because that's what I did today. So I'm just real happy to be here. I'm going to drink a little and forget that my thumb is sliced open. Gigi's looking at me all crazy.
Yeah,
we're trying to cook.
What was you do? Cut your thumb off? Or
So I sliced it real. So today I was cooking, and I was like, let me sharpen this knife first. Yeah, it'll be great. And then I went whoosh into my thumb. And then after an hour of it bleeding, I decided I should maybe go to urgent care. So they glued it back together, and then they put it on a splint and wrapped it up.
First of all, I didn't know you could run, but okay.
Well, this is why I don't, because slice, baby.
Don't eat any of Run's food right now because it has some extra sauce in it.
No. I threw all that away, and then I said, forget that, big middle finger, and just snapped it.
All right. So, hey, guys.
Oh, with it.
Today's show is called The Unity Show. And as you can see, we have several guests. Man, Kwame Shakur is here from the New African Black Panther Party, and then we also have some other folks that are joining us off and on in the show. So if at some point we get a chance to do some question and answers, well, what you do is then unmute yourself when we do question and answer. Ask your question. Remember, we're always respectful on Heavy Hitters Radio Show, and lots of people have opinions. So state your opinions, and we respect everyone's opinion. Because that's what it is. It's theirs, right? And we put good content out. Y'all guys ready? Outstanding. Mr. Taylor, how are you, sir?
I'm good. And you?
I'm doing well. Hey guys, this is Ike Taylor. He is the co-founder. I got to get this right. He is the co-founder of Growth and Development. Did I say that right, sir?
Yes.
Outstanding. I'm 1 for 1, Kwame. All right, so hey, man, we're so glad you're here on the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. I tell you what, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then you can go right into why you're even here.
Okay. My name is Ike Taylor. I'm a lifelong member of Growth and Development. I'm retired co-chairman of Black Gangster Disciples and the Gangster Disciple Nation. I've been part of this organization since I was 13 years old, and I'm 69 now. Okay, I am a Pontiac brother. I was involved, indicted, along with Danny Lee and 14 more of us of the Pontiac Rebellion of July 22nd, 1978. Recently, I have been traveling throughout the Midwest states on a unity and peace mission. We're trying to extend our hand in peace to all the street organizations, all the different organizations, political, social, whatever, because we need to put a stop to all this senseless killing, shooting of our kids, our women folk, and the innocent folk. Last night, our partnership with the Morris Science Temple of America, in partnership with ABJ Millennium Pride, that's presenting the Chicago Street Trans Peace Progress Summit. Right? Different organizations. And Benny Lee. Can Benny Lee hear me?
Yes.
Hey, you all right?
Hey, Benny, how you doing, my brother?
All right, old man.
Yeah, right. I shouldn't told y'all my age, you know. But then too, you're just as old as you feel, you know. And I feel great. And I want to thank you, brothers, for having this program and for inviting me on it. Now I have other obligations, and I can't be on here for too long. But I heard you mention some about questions. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay. All right. So you want to jump right in there?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So there's something that I always found interesting. So you said that you were co-founder of Growth and Development, which I know stands for Gangster Disciples. When did that change happen, and what was the reason that it happened?
All right, what change of the new concept happened back in 1980 when Larry and I and Benny and the rest of the Pontiac brothers was fighting for our life because of the Pontiac Rebellion. And we knew because of this frame up, what they did, they decided that they was going to charge all the so-called chiefs of the street organization and make them the scapegoats. But it's been in the news and it's been well known and documented that after you treat people a certain way for so long, they're going to rebel. It's inevitable. It's through history. And that's just what happened. It was a spontaneous riot where the brothers decided that morning. It wasn't no plan. It wasn't organized or nothing. It was just a straight up rebellion. It wasn't a riot. It wasn't no list of demands talking about they want better food or better medical care, long visiting hours. The brothers said this institution and all this kind is wrong. So they decide, I guess, to burn it down and make a statement. And just so happened, a few people, with 3 officers got killed, and 3 others was injured real bad. But still, that's what happens when you become the oppressor and you oppress people for so long. You know they're gonna strike back sooner or later, and that's just what happened. And I thank God that myself, along with Larry, Ben, and the rest of the Pontiac brothers, that we beat that case and we exposed the Illinois frame up. And now we don't know. Well, no, we did make a change in institutions because even after every rad rebellion, they want to pump money into the problem, put a bandage on it, and say this and that, and try to pacify the people. But they were just buying time to build these supermax penitentiaries and change some more laws where they were benefiting from the laws. What they was getting 2 years for, they giving us 20, 30, even a gun now with a background to get you 20 years in a federal institution and with no parole. You're going to do at least 18 years. So everything is against us. And we made that change in 81 because Larry and I didn't know our future. So we figured they was going to convict us because we had the conspiracy. So what we did, we decided we had to make a change. And that's when we decided to come from the darkness to the light and open up the organization and make it all about political, socioeconomic, all that big word stuff, and that's where we at now. And then too, Benny, you a part of it, the LSD, Lord Stones and Disciples. A lot of these young brothers don't know. And the Lord Stone Disciples back to the 70s, we have been united. And I am proud to say I'm still a lifelong member of Lord Stones and Disciples.
Man, outstanding. Jeezy, did you have a question?
Well, I
Well, let me explain. Let me say this. We have came from supreme gangsters, black gangster disciples, to now growth and development. And growth and development is just a social young men, young women program that lead a clean, respectable, honorable, crime-free life. Become a contributor to your community. Become a mentor to the young. You know, and we are all about peace. We are not violent. And then too, if the young folks would just look back in a little history, they'll see back in the '60s, all the street organizations became a gang with J. Edgar Hoover said because of the Black Panthers, the Black Nationalists, the Black Hands, the Mad Black Souls, and so forth. Even all the street organizations, the Devil Disciples, they put Black Devil Disciples, Supreme Gangsters, Black Supreme Gangsters, Vice Lords, Black Conservative Vice Lords, and so forth, because we were students of the Civil Rights Movement. And our generation, my generation, was the one that's supposed to take it to the next level. But then you see, in 67, 68, 69, when they thought that we was unifying and we were saying, you know, power to the people, and we was, had bought into it, that they systematically came out to destroy us. When Hoover said that we was a street gang and we was a threat to America's way of life, but they was what he was doing, and he's the head lawman of the state, was giving them permission to kill us. You see what they did to Fred Hampton and numerous other Black Panthers throughout the years. You know, you still have brothers from the late '60s, mid '60s, that's Black Panthers, Black Nationalists, that's still doing time buried somewhere in America. And all this senseless shooting, killing, that's what these people want us to do. They're branding us savages. But we are, by nature, we peace-loving people. We learn to be savages because of America. That's what they taught us to be. And all this design, seeing in the '60s, when we was getting together, making moves. Here come the Donald Gone books. Here come the Superfly movies. You know, here come the narcotics. And now 50 years later, 51 years, because this 2020, and this was happening in '68, '69. And look where we at. You know, you got your brother for years walking around with their pants hanging off. And don't you know, we've been telling you brothers for years, that started in the penitentiary with the homosexuals. They would take the belts because brothers were committing suicide or using them for weapons, so they would take the belts so your pants gonna sag. So the homosexuals would let their pants sag a little further, advertising their goods and their wares. And now, as young Black men going into adulthood, we running around with our pants hanging off us. Every generation had a fad or a fashion that the generation above us didn't like. In my generation, you might not even know these words. We was Gousters, Ivory Leggers, and Continental. Then was dress style. And each dress style represented a certain thing. You was Gouster, more or less you was a player, street person, or hustler, or whatever. A Continental is that you wore your pants and everything neat and so forth. You didn't wear baggy pants or pleats or whatever. And an Ivory Legger is the brother that wore an alpaca sweater, high-boy shirt with a bow tie. And that was me. So, like I said, we on growth and development now. We've been on growth and development since the mid-'90s. And it's a shame that under our, personally, the 6-point stop with the Black disciples, the gangster disciples, growth and development, everything GD, you know, with disciples, how since the '80s we fighting each other. That split among the Black disciples and the Black gangster disciples, that split in '77, '78 can cause more harm to more young Black folks than anything. More brothers are still in the penitentiaries, more sisters still in the penitentiary because of this split. And then the Black disciples, they honor King David, they honor King Hoover. So why would they split and go to war with each other over some King Hoover and King David put together in 1969, 51 years ago? And it's obvious that street organizations is not going anywhere. The Vice Lord has been around since the '50s. Blackstone, Dale Roop has been around since the mid '60s, and that was in the 20th century, 20th, 21st century. All right, but listen, my phone is jumping. I appreciate the time. I hope I enlightened you brothers on a little something. But, Benny is a hell of a speaker. And one thing about Benny, let me say this about Benny. Benny is Vice Lord, and we come off the west side of Chicago together. We have never been adversaries. But there's one thing, Larry asked Benny to speak at his sentencing hearing, his pre-sentencing hearing. Now, a few of the other brothers spoke, but he reached out to Benny, and Benny knows that he is part of growth and development on the strength he's the Pontiac brother. The same way with L. Rukins and everybody else. It's because the Benny cleaned himself up. So he'll tell y'all about his life. I just want y'all to know, Benny, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be a Pontiac brother. I'm proud you still here, and you just keep on doing what you're doing because I'm taking a page out your book. All right, my brother?
Thank you, my brother. Stay safe.
Hey, not only that, all of us stay safe and stay smart. I'm gonna call back a little later. I got to deal with these folks. They think I'm important. Thank y'all. All right, Kwame, I love you, brother. And the other brother I just met, the Black Panther, the new.
Yeah, I'm on here.
All right, my man. Nice to meet y'all. And I'm sure we're gonna bump heads and we're gonna work together because we're on the same train. All right, we're moving on this peace train. We're gonna definitely unite. It's not the older brothers, it's the younger brothers. And I hate we dropped the ball on the younger brothers, but once the feds came up with this RICO stuff and started framing the brothers and indicting folks, we all had to resort back to the shadows. But we shouldn't have let them run us into the shadow. We should have stood up and maybe all this killing and senseless carrying on wouldn't be. And like Fred said, I am a revolutionary. Power to the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All power to the people, my brother.
Hey, thank you, sir. Hey, I appreciate it. Hopefully you'll be able to get back on here soon. Man, I tell you what, that was powerful so far. I mean, my man just put drop history on us. Just like it happened yesterday. And what he said was 51 years ago that he's going back. So that's something serious. Geez, did you have any thoughts about what Mr. Taylor just said?
Nah, man. I mean, it's crazy because I grew up, my neighborhood was predominantly folk neighborhood. You know what I mean? So just seeing, what he's saying and how it kind of evolved into something that they was trying to fight against. In my era growing up, it was, we was constantly putting heads with other rival gangs, and to hear one of the founder members say, "No, it wasn't even about that to begin with." That actually Jacob Hoover put that in place, and it just kind of evolved from that. It's kind of mind blowing right now, man. Just getting the real history, behind it all. Actually, it was a political organization alongside the Black Panther Party movement to move black people ahead, and having community wealth and community programs and stuff. That was mind blowing, man. I never knew that.
Yeah, for sure. Long Green.
Yeah, man, I'm completely humbled by that. I mean, again, like Jesus was saying, just the history of it, but even more than that for me, you know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in a neighborhood that, you know what I'm saying, we lived very close. We had a lot of GDs in my neighborhood, and just a couple streets away, we have vice lords, and we had problems consistently, you know what I mean? But to hear a founder and the respect that he has for Brother Benny Lee, man, that just does everything for my soul. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so much greater than maybe what I could have seen as a juvenile or as a youth. You know what I mean? And certainly, just seeing two leaders like that have that kind of respect for one another, it speaks to the overall potential that we need to reach as a community in general. You know what I mean? Because through the years of violence and everything else in the city of Chicago, the region, even what led down to the Indianapolis area, you know what I mean? Like I said, it does my soul some good to hear two leaders from different sects that respect each other and understand the greater good for our people in general.
And my hope, we have some folks from the Mentor Network that have joined us today, and my hope is that we can get some content out of this to show, to show some of these young guys that these guys are mentoring, to try to help them get through and get past this. Like I said, it's the Unity Show, man. Heavy Hitters Radio. Hey, I would say something to run, but the mean streets of Greenwood, Indiana, I'm sure she wasn't worried about none of this kind of stuff.
No, but I'm excited to learn about it and know where we can move forward from here, especially with our young people. But you're right, today is a whole new learning experience for me.
Mr. Lee. Again, welcome to the show, man. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say to us as well. The floor is yours, sir.
What Ike did mention is that him and Larry Hoover was in grammar school together. They started off with a clique called the Supreme Gents. And when they got in the high school age, that's when they became High Supreme Gangsters. And a lot of people don't know that the Supreme Gangsters had sets all over the city. Ike caught a murder case and went to Sheridan. It was a juvenile maximum security prison. Out of Sheridan, want him to go back to the south side where the gangsters originated from. So that's how he migrated to the west side of Chicago. And he started High Supreme Gangsters on the west side. And he started at K-Town on the west side. That's where me and a lot of brothers come from. So we knew them. We had a relationship. I moved out of K-Town in 1966, further west on Cicero. And they had a group of what they call Cicero Vice Lords. They were like 4 or 5 us. About maybe 12 years old at the time. And by that community, in a predominantly white community, me and the little brothers that I ran with, we had to band together to fight white boys just to go swimming at the nearest swimming pool and go to the show. So we clicked up just to protect each other. And so the older Vice Lords noticed us. And they surrounded us one day and told us we're going to be in that area, we're going to be black boys. Right? We didn't see ourselves as a street gang. We were just young guys in the hood. Right? And they told us it's going to be a nation meeting at the church in the area. And we need to be there that Friday. Right? But we had made our mind that we ain't going to be no peewees. Vice Lords had different levels. We had midget Vice Lords, peewee Vice Lords, right? We said we ain't gonna be there. We're 12 years old, going on 13. And so they asked everybody, man, who y'all chief? Everybody looked right at me. And I was not the biggest guy in the crowd or the toughest guy in the crowd, but everybody, I guess because I boxed, I was a boxer. I boxed in the gym, golden gloves, all that. So I would always lead the charge, me and my brothers, because we all could box. So we like led the charge. Plus in my alley, we had the ball ring on the garage, and I always had boxing gloves. Challenge brothers, put these gloves on, So I guess they looked at me like the leader. And so that Friday we went to the meeting, and the Cicero Vice Lord introduced us to the body of the Conservative Nation. Pepperlo was still in play then, who's the founder of the Vice Lord. Pepperlo was in our St. Charles back in 1957.
Wow.
And organized the guy that was in St. Charles with him that was from the Lawndale area on the west side, right, from other little smaller gangs. He organized them in St. Charles in 1957, and that gave birth to the Vice Lords. So when they came out in 1958 to the street in Lawndale, that's when they grew to the Vice Lords, and they started dominating the smaller gangs in the area, and those smaller gangs became Vice Lords, different Vice Lord sets. And so at the set I come from off Cicero, that became a set with Cicero Vice Lord. So I got recorded in 1960. I got recorded in as the youngest chief of the youngest branch of the Vice Lords in 1966 going into 67. So I was the youngest chief, and our branch was the youngest of the Vice. What people think I'm older than what I am and think I'm one of the founders, but I was young at that time, sitting at the table with Pepperlo and the rest of the chiefs. Right? But I wasn't, I think I turned 13 like that. And so I ended up in St. Charles too, where the Vice Lords was founded. I ended up down there, and didn't nobody know about our neighborhood, so they kind of taunted as a white nigga, all that stuff. So I stayed into it with a lot of guys down there. I built a name for myself. So as guys from start coming down there, and like, man, this is who we are, right? And we grew, right? And so when I came out, that was like in '71. I went down in '69. When I come out in '71, the world had changed. Like Ike say, when I went to St. Charles in '69, James Brown was singing "Feeling Proud," and Preston was singing "Keep On Pushing," right? The Temp had a whole album, "Message to the Black Man." It was like a black consciousness, right? And James, you had in the ship, you had Jim Brown, and we're talking about power to the people, right? And it was like a movement at times. There was a lot of movements going on. You had the Vietnam War going on. You had the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Power movement going on. A lot of movement. So really, the Black Street Organization became part of the Black Power movement, right? And that's when we came up with this thing called a self-help movement. We'll do for ourselves. But there were a lot of organizations and agencies in the community. But then again, they would favor the A and B students, young people, and with Sean brothers that was labeled gang affiliated. And so that's when Bobby Gordon said, we got to come up with something. They met with 2 police commanders in the Lawndale era, because Lawndale had 2 police precincts. And they appealed to them what they were trying to do. And believe it or not, those 2 police commanders helped Bobby Gordon organize a peace summit. That was in 1967. And so you had the heads of Egyptian Cobras, who was one of the largest street gangs then on the west side, the Vice Lords, and the Roman Saints. Those are 3 major gangs, right? And they came together, and then who showed up with all the businesses like Kraft Food, Bell Telephone Company, Sears and Roebuck, Motorola, all them big companies showed up, and a lot of legislators. And so they appealed to them what they was trying to do. And so that group of businesses, legislators, became Operation Bootstrap. After Booker T. Washington concept, pull yourself up by your own bootstrap. So those companies became Operation Bootstrap, and their objective was to get behind the street gangs so they can legitimize themselves and become community organizations. So the Vice Lord became the very first street gang in this country to get incorporated as a non-for-profit community-based organization. Oh, wow. They started getting grants. Sears and Roebuck became their fiscal agent. Wow. People realized that. And the relationship the Vice Lords had with the Black Panthers, the Panthers, they was real radical about kill the pig and all that stuff. But Bobby, the Vice Lords weren't about killing police and all that stuff. They said, if we're a community, whether we like it or not, the police is part of the community. We got a relationship build, right? And so when some younger Vice Lords was passing out Panther literature, Bobby them said, now if he get caught with this literature and can't respond to it, he can get in some trouble. So it caused a little tension between the Panthers and the Vice Lords. But when they had the meeting at the Better Boys Foundation, headed up by one of our former WGN radio personnel, Warner Sanders, so they met, and the Panthers realized the Vice Lords was on the same program as they was on, right? And we built that relationship. And Fred Hampton, he was a genius as far as building coalitions. He built the very first Rainbow Coalition. He organized the Black Panthers with the Young Lords, which was the Puerto Rican movement, the Young Patriots, which was a white poor people's movement, and that became the Rainbow Coalition, right? And then later, once LSD was formed, that's like Ike say, Lord Stomp the disciple. Vice Lord started to shut down like construction on the west side and saying that if they weren't going to hire black contractors and black laborers, the building ain't going up. They was building the University of Illinois Chicago. They shut the construction site down. Now, one of the original Vice Lords, Calloway, was the first cousin of Bull, Chief Bull. He's the founder of the Blackstone Rangers. Jeff Ford was like little chief above him. And so by Calloway and Bull being first cousins, that created a relationship between the Vice Lords and the Stones. And so the Vice Lord would go out south really to help Bull structure the thing, right? And then the Stones would come out west, right, and help Vice Lord with shutting down stuff. And so vice lords would go out out south to help the Stones shut down construction sites, and then the disciples joined in, and that's what formed LSD, shutting sites down and demanding better opportunities for blacks. That's how that. It's the Stones and the disciple. People don't realize this. It was the Stones and the disciple got $1 million grant from the Rockefeller Foundation. It was their grants.
Wow.
But you had preachers on the South Side in Woodlawn. They had an organization called the Woodlawn Organization, right? And Bishop Brazier and Finley, they were the fiscal agent of the grant, right? And so you see some of these documentaries with Jeff Ford and them, and they showing the monies they got, and you see guys passing out literature in the classroom and stuff. Now, one scene, you see a brother with a high top fade bush with a knit on black blue in the front. That was Elwood Bay, one of the main 21s of the Stones, passing the literature out. But if you look at that table, you see Prince Oldtimer, who was the prince of the disciples. So they were working together, right? Because you had two princes. King David was the king of the disciples, and Prince Oldtimer was the prince of the disciples. Larry Hoover was the king of the gangsters, and Tennessee was the prince of the gangster. But when they merged the game, Black Gangster Disciple Nation, you had two kings and two princes. And the agreement was once something happened to one of the kings, the other one would take over. And when David Boxer died, that's when Larry Hoover stepped up. And the disciples, they felt like, well, we can't honor that, and that's when that split happened, like Ike said, in '77. So it was like we got part of the movement. But then when they saw that the street organizations were registering people to vote, opening up business, because the Vice Lords had Teen Town, a restaurant, had two Tasty Freeze ice cream parlors, had the African Lion was a boutique where people could go buy Afro picks and dashikis and stuff like that. They had an organization called TRAG, Tennis Rights Action Group. They the one worked along with Martin Luther King when he came to Chicago. See, Martin Luther King wasn't welcome in Chicago. Mayor Daley looked at him like a troublemaker, that his presence would cause tension between blacks and whites, which was already there. So he put that word out. And so now black ministers wouldn't even let Martin Luther King come and speak at their churches. People don't know that either. There was a couple of black ministers on the west side in Lawndale where Martin Luther King lived at. Martin Luther King lived in the Holy City, where the Vice Lord stronghold. That's where he lived at on 16th, right? And so he organized out of a church a block away from his house called Stone Temple Church, right? And there was one day they was in that meeting, right? All the Vice Lords there, and one of Martin Luther King's followers said he hoped Martin Luther King would hook up with these street thugs. And that was Cupid, the street enforcer at that time for the Vice Lord. He told Pepperlo. And back then, Pepperlo was undisputed, the chief of all Vice Lords, undisputed, no question, right? Mm-hmm. And so Pep said, well, we out of here. And Martin Luther King saw over 2/3 of that church leave, and he realized he could get with them. So minister here, he was the first minister, matter of fact, the only minister ordained by Martin Luther King, Reverend Al Sampson. He was like the street outreach work, so he met with the different street gangs, LSD, outside, all that. He brought us together. And when Martin Luther King did that speech down at Soldier Field, where the Chicago Bears play at, most of the people were Stones and disciples. When he marched through Marquette, those were Special Rangers in Marquette. He marched through those Vice Lords in Marquette. So people don't realize that his following, his was basically access to the masses of the black people through their churches and stuff. And so because the Vice Lords had tennis right action, they would when landlords are illegally out their homes, the Vice Lords put their stuff back, challenge the landlord, take them to court. And so Martin Luther King saw what they were doing, and he sat down with them, he started explaining to them, because Martin Luther King had 6 principles and 6 steps of nonviolence that he used. That's what they were organized around, what he called building a community. So that's how that happened. But just to wrap it up, Mayor Daley, he saw that what was happening, gang violence had decreased in those areas. Stone, the Vice, because even the Disciples had a youth program right on 64th and Allstate, one block west of where King David lived at on 63rd and Emerald, right? They had a youth program. The Stones had different centers, right? And so they saw that they had the same potential to come into power, just like he did with the Irish back in the 20s and the 30s. But they were the major gangs in Chicago then, played a major role in the 1919 race, right? And that Hamburg Athletic Club that he was a member of still exists today. And he came out of there, and most of those Irish guys became police officers, a fire department, and different city councils. And he eventually rose up, became the mayor. And so he saw these street gangs with the same potential. They were registered people vote, opened up business. And that's when he declared a war on street gangs. And he upbeat the gang intelligence unit from 30 police officers to over 300. And that's when Fred Hampton, he had got assassinated. And then Bobby Gore, who was the spokesman for the vice lords, ended up with a trumped up murder case and went to prison. And then Jeff ended up being indicted for misappropriation of government funds. But the thing was, the grant was for $1 million. And we know $1 million is 10,000. But Jeff got charged with misappropriation $200,000. And that's what he got locked up for. So the question is, what happened to the other 800,000 when those preachers were the fiscal agent of the money? So in reality, Jeff Ford was scapegoated. But then again, when they came down on the street gangs, what it did is taught the black community you should never trust young black leadership. Still today, when one of us stand up and try to speak on something, what do they say? Well, you know he was a former vice lord leader. You know he's with them GDs back in the day. To taint our people, I'm talking about black people, to get them depressed. Don't trust that young black person. They from da. Right? But then when everybody got locked up in the late 60s going into the 70s, that's when my generation, we was coming out of the juvenile. I was coming out of IYC where the vice lords was founded. I did 2 years down there. I come out 17 years old. The world was different. Now, Sly Stone singing I Want to Take You Higher. The Temptation had a whole album, Take You on Cloud 9, in the show, Superfly and the Max. So it changed the consciousness of young people. And you still didn't hear about a lot of gang violence because people was getting high, hustling, pimping, all that kind of stuff, right? And so it was in the late 70s, mid 70s, when my generation, we started going to prison. But when we got to the prison, right, the older heads that was already in the prison, they was already building a new structure from behind the wall. And for years, the leadership of the disciples, the vice lords, and the Stones was behind the walls. It wasn't on the streets. Jeff Ford was locked up. Bobby Gore was locked up. Larry Hoover was locked up. Charlotte Freeman was locked up. Everybody was behind the wall. And that's when they restructured everything. Around the same time, me and Ike them caught the murders in Pontiac in July 22nd, 1978. So they had to grab us to dismantle this movement they saw coming for us organizing, right? And that's when they tried to give us all the death penalty. We was each charged with 15 counts of murder, 2 attempt murder, mob action. But they didn't realize that we was going to come. Let the truth be told, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan, came to visit us in Stateville Maximum Security Prison. And he told us that, you know, brothers, the conspiracy happened 300 years ago when black men were taught not to trust each other, you know, with this Willie Lynch theory. And he said, y'all facing the death penalty and y'all don't look at each other's opposition. Y'all done lost all together. So that forced us to come together and band together. And every time we would correspond, we would say, your brother in struggle. Those the people gave us that name, Brothers of the Struggle, right? The people gave us that name, Brothers of the Struggle, right? And we became the original Brothers of the Struggle. You had a Panther brother that was part of that, Omega. You had 5 vice lords. You had about a good, I think, 5 GDs, 4 black souls, right? And one of them, we don't even count. He turned state's evidence on, so we went from 17 to 16, right? So we don't count him, right? And it was during that era that we organized, and us organized, and organized the brothers behind the wall. And then in turn it organized the brothers on the streets. So they came together on the streets as well, right? And when the case was over with, then I finally came home, right, and trying to like live up to what I learned in prison about the new way, the new teachings and stuff. Because vice lords embraced Islam. That's when we start beating our chests and start coming palms up, meaning my hands are clean. I mean no harm. And if you need me, but don't need me up. At one time, vice lords hat and cane used to represent the king's crown, the cane his sword, but now that hat represents the cleansing of our minds to stop allowing our physical craving, like our anger, our lust, and our greed and jealousy, control how we act, how to think as men, and put mind over matter. Don't let emotions control, right? And even the cane, our staff of strength, that we must support one another through these trying times. And that's when they brought in the 5-point star. At that time, it didn't exist before then. And so the 5-point star represents the true essence of man. But each point represents love, peace, freedom, justice, and equality. But every man is seeking that in his life. And if he's not seeking that, he's in conflict with himself. And he'll be with anybody he come in contact with if you don't come in peace, if you're not treating with justice, and with, that's what that whole 5-point star signified, the true essence of man. And that's what we start teaching other brothers. We move from being generals to becoming elites. That was our concept. And then you probably seen the 2 half moon to represent that we were one nation at one time over in Africa. But we got divided through the slave trade, right? And so the one on the east represent our people over in the east, over in Africa. That's why vice lords represent the left, giving homage to our ancestors. A lot of young brothers don't know that, right? And then the one on the right represent our people over in the west, where we come from, right? And this is where we got to free our mind that's been given to us. They took away our African mind and planted a European mind and created this term called slave, Negro, so we got to get rid of that mind and regain our African mind. And that's why that 2 half moon represent, and that's why we represent to the left, right? And so those teachings were there, but what happened over the years, like they say, it's time, each decade, you see a different type of society. In the 60s, it was about the movement. In the 70s, about the superfly. Now, coming in the 80s, now we home trying to bring this new movement out. But brothers done got caught up into Nino Brown, what they seen in New Jack City. And then you start seeing at that time, because street organizations used to run drug dealers out the neighborhood, prostitution out the neighborhood. They used to chant, marching, hey, hey, ho, ho, drugs and prostitution got to go. And you wouldn't dare try to sell no drugs in a vice lord or a stone or a disciple neighborhood because they was totally against it. But that generation coming into the 80s, they start seeing drug dealers, they start taking it over, and that's when gangs start getting into the drug game around that time. And then when crack hit the scene, Scarface, and everybody wanted to be a gangster. And you started seeing the splendering of the nation. And then FBI got involved. They started labeling street gangs as organized crime. And the same method, they brought down the American Mafia, syndicate. They used the same method to destroy the street nations. Chicago had the very first street nations, the Vice Lord Nation, the Stone Nation, the Disciple Nation, right? And so they used the same methods up under the RICO Act, racketeering, influence, corrupted organization. And that's how they came at street organization and destroyed that hierarchy and leadership, even in the prisons. They came up with TAMs or Supermax, sending all heads down there to separate them so they can't organize. Brothers couldn't get caught 2 or 3 deep walking in prison to break that up. Never give them a chance to come together on the streets. 2 or more brothers walking down the street, I rouse them, throw them up against the wall, lock them up, all that kind. Never want you to open that. And then the heads end up now in the federal system. Right? And so where they now reorganize in the federal system up under the coalition, bringing all the Chicago organizations together in the federal system up under coalition. And them brothers now starting to come home with a different message for these young brothers. Right? And so I think I talk too much, but I can just shut down now and see if anybody got any questions.
No, Mr. Lee, I tell you what, you did not talk too much. I mean, the candidness in your talk is amazing. And giving us the history, because honestly, I don't think, especially like if you're not from Chicago or even the Gary Hammond area in Indiana, I don't think you know the real history of how it goes because you didn't really learn it. What you saw was what you got at whatever age you are. So if I'm starting to remember and pay attention to things, I'm like I'm in the '80s. I'm seeing what's happening in the '80s, and you're right. That's what I saw. I never saw them putting putting together an organization that's going to help people or drive drugs out or help women or all that kind of stuff. I never saw any of that. Never was a part of any of that. And matter of fact, I don't know. There's not very many of our listeners probably that are a part of that because of the age demographic that we serve. But man, that was amazing. Let me see here, Jeezy. Did you have any questions? You're on mute, big boy. Still, there you
I'm
go.
making a rookie mistake like Ron. I'm making rookie mistakes. But no, just the overall lesson, man. Like I say, like you just mentioned. I'm a kid. I'm a child. Now, obviously, I was born in the '70s, late '70s. So, but for me, remembering stuff is mostly late '80s through the '90s. And so, when I grew up, it was totally different than how he explained it. We grew up with more of the gang violence. I wear my hat this way, you wear your hat that way, that kind of deal. And it was always butting heads. So growing up in Gary, everything kind of trickled down from Chicago. So growing up in there, I mean, when I grew up, Gary was the murder capital. It was because of this gang violence. I never, I'm kind of sad that when I grew up, it wasn't about organizing, like he's saying, going out to construction sites, shutting them down, saying, "Nah, you ain't got enough representation out here." That's huge.
That's humongous.
Can be used today.
Yeah.
Those methods can be used today to go out there and say, "Nah, we deserve these jobs in our area. We deserve to put people like us in these areas, man." That's huge. That's knowledge that was not passed down to us growing up.
Right.
That they can be used today. There's some of those methods.
Hey,
my last time going to the joint, I had to go through the penitentiary. And when I went back, I ran into a lot of those guys, like the late '70s and '80s, with that mindset, right? And I would be on a deck or in the jail, and brothers say, "Well, I got the deck. I'm the chief of the deck." And I would challenge them, say, "Man, y'all got some literature up there?" And as soon as he say no, I tell him to sit on his hands. I take his rank from him. Like, how's you leading these brothers? You don't have no teachers. Every elite should come off his temple with these teachers, right? So I strip a brother in his rank. They need to know, because we live by these laws. Right? I think what happened as guys come out the joint that had some juice, young brothers are getting money selling drugs, can hand the chief a car and give him 10 stacks to go shopping. And so now the chief with the real rank, this my little man here, and I'm going to give him some rank. This little brother ain't took now oath, don't know no literature, right? And now he a 3-star, 5-star elite, right? As time went on, a lot of kids came home broke, and little guys are throwing stuff at them, and they get in a rank, but they never get the teaching. As time went by in the '80s and in the '90s, all that got lost. Follow what I'm saying? So that's how I believe brothers really got away from what these organizations was really about. It never was taught because it was the heads themselves that compromised their backings and gave in. My case, I came home in '84. My last case, I came home November 15, 1984. I ain't been back since. I've been out 36 years. But I came out, went straight to Bobby Core because he had got out the joint then. And he was our supreme elite. He the one wrote up all our literature. I asked him, man, how was he moved to become the director of the Safety Foundation, right? He told me, he said, man, look, these brothers done heard you home. He used to call me Minister Akbar back then. He said, done heard you home. They know you as the old Minister Akbar. I said, man, when you get you a job, get in school, start getting your act together, brothers respect you different, and they'll come to you different. And I took his advice. I moved to the north side, got married, had a son, became a drug counselor, and when I started seeing brothers, I wasn't talking with all that tobacco in my mouth no more. all that you did, you gave me all that was gone. I'm speaking with good diction. By the time I was a certified drug abuse counselor. So brothers started hearing it, so they started coming home, want to get up with me. Then I got a associate degree, then a bachelor's, then a master's, and now I'm at Northeast Illinois University. And when I'm teaching the studies department, I'm the one that put the whole exhibit together on the history of the vice lord. We got a website and all that, just raising awareness, even disciples and stones too. Like, hey man, this is how it was when disciples of stones see that exhibit, it puts them on their mind. Like, man, I'm a hypocrite, really. This is our history, how we live. That's the objective of that, is to raise young brothers' awareness. Traveling exhibit, I can take it. I've been meeting with Jane Allen Hull House Museum, who structured this. And I've been meeting with Highsmith, who was, I didn't mention, Highsmith was one of the original disciples before they became disciples. There were small groups, and Highsmith ran the parents, a little group, and little groups came together ready to go up against the stones. And they came together and formed the disciples. While David Boxdale was in Little Joliet. It's when David Boxdale came out and he beat up Charlie Atkins, and then when he became David Boxdale, he organized everybody and created the disciple nation. That's how he became King David. I can talk about that. But I've been talking with Highsmith, Ike, some Stones, some of the main 21 brothers. We're supposed to come together. Everybody supposed to pull hope, this whole newspaper to recreate this exhibit so we can go the whole history of LSD and what that era looked like. So when young brothers can see it, they can feel proud of who they are, maybe change their ways. That's something we're doing today.
Outstanding, man. Speaking of that, you said I got the flyer from the new African Black Panther Party, and you guys are going to be here in Indianapolis. Let me see. I got to check the date here. July 31st. It looks like July 31st. We're going to have at the Hovey Street Church of Christ. It's going to be a meeting with you, Benny Lee, and Ike Taylor getting together. And by the way, guys, on this call, we have Shaquan Davis. I'll get to him here in a second, but thank you for being here. But he is the founder of Fintown Academy. I said it right, didn't I, Kwame? Are you proud of me?
You said it right. Yeah, I said I'm proud, man. I'm proud.
Outstanding. All right. It makes me so happy. Hey, so welcome. We will definitely get to you in a second. All right. Let me see here. Long Green, do you have anything for any questions for Mr. Lee or thoughts?
Yeah, certainly. Hey, Brother Benny Lee, man, I appreciate you being on with us tonight. I'm just kind of curious because I'm around LGZ's age and kind of growing up when the violent part of gangs was taking place in the early mid 90s and what have you. That was kind of my first introduction to what was going on and the whole existence of gang life. But that was also kind of a curious time in terms of the country because things were, as you know, crazy in Los Angeles, and the media started portraying gangs a certain way, but rap music, hip hop started kind of also, making it somewhat cool, or you know what I'm saying? And they gave a perception about gang life that made, I guess, young brothers more interested in that particular lifestyle. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, during those times, did the pop culture scene and the media and what was going on in LA impact the violence and what you saw during that same time in the Chicago area?
Well, Chicago always had issues. Right? It was the FBI that said it best, that you cannot go to not one major city in this country without seeing the presence of a Chicago gang. You go to Mississippi, you go to Waukegan, you go to Minnesota, you go to Memphis, you go to Detroit, Ohio, you don't see the presence of Chicago gangs. And so, no, LA didn't have so influence on Chicago. But you don't see no blood crip in Chicago. You might see one or two brothers claim he might be a blood, but you don't see no blood and crip sets in Chicago. Because Vice Lord and disciples are institutions, and these little brothers is living by it, right? But what I saw emergence in '93, if you guys remember, in '93, there was an Urban Peace Summit in 1993. I got a copy for anybody who want it. In 1993, there was an Urban Peace Summit tour. The street gangs from LA, California came together, Blood to Crips. Gangs from all states, even Nebraska, Minnesota, Ohio, all the street gangs came together and met down in Kansas City. And there was a peace summit there, right? That's when Ben Shavers was the head of the NAACP. And Prince Asiel was the head of this country, Free Israelites. All of them came together. But the media looking at a gang peace summit when we really called it an urban peace summit. And we did the tour in Kansas City. The people in Kansas City came together to welcome us and set it up for us to go speak in schools. Ministers had us come and speak at churches, congregations. We speak at social agencies to raise the young people in that extra consciousness that is. Then it went to LA. They had the same group went to LA. Then they went to Ohio, to Michigan, and the last one was right in Chicago. That was the movement that happened in '93, changing the continent and getting us to see things a little different. President Clinton was the president in that. And with that movement, he had some demands too. And it was forced President Clinton to come up with monies for street organizations to do things in their community. So he set up this grant, I think it was like $80 million initially. But what happened, and I warned Gator and all them then, to look, if we don't become legitimate not-for-profit organizations, we would not be able to qualify for something. And brothers didn't do that. And so when the money came down, you had college students and other Ivy League people that were savvy with grants and stuff, opened up gang prevention program from the money that we forced the president to come up with. And that's how we got messed up. In the same way in the 60s, President Nixon, when he saw street getting grants and stuff like that, you didn't have a 501c3 that you couldn't qualify for any federal grants or state grants. And at the same time, the Internal Revenue blocked the vice lords and stoned them from getting that 501c3. And so that when we were getting grants, that discontinued. And so money dried up and brothers resorted back to their own means of survival. And that's how it got destroyed. And I'm just saying how history repeats itself. And like right now, some kind of movement's going on. They just had a big old thing for Larry Hoover in November. All the GDs of unbroken development. And they was getting out awards, and I was honored that they gave me an award. Here I am a vice lord at a GD banquet, and they gave me an award.
That's respect.
Yeah, Larry Hoover, right now as we speak, is downtown Chicago going for a hearing Friday to get his sentence taken back from him under the federal system. And who did he reach out for? He asked me to write him a letter, write his judge a letter on his behalf. I wrote that letter, and I explained that judge. So Larry is an elder now. He's a senior citizen. Right? If anything, these guys will want to meet him from his reputation, and he can use that for some turn some things around. Right? So we're praying now that they give him some favors and stuff, But I'm constantly being pulled and used, not just with vice lords, but with Stones too. Kwame was at my anniversary. They celebrated my 36 years of being out. Kwame was there. He is sick. That whole old 21st century, the whole old main 21s of the Stones that was on the case of Jeff Ford, they was there. And Mom, Highsmith was there. The old disciples, they was there. And Mom, and then other heads of vice lords from different. So I'm the guy that, like y'all probably heard of the shootings going on between the Mexicans and the blacks here in Chicago during the protests, right? So brothers, man, we need to shut this down. So I call a meeting of every head of every organization in Chicago. They had a meeting at my office. board members from the GDs, Stones, my office and said, look, we got to shut this down. And so we said, have a meeting at the United Center where the Bulls played and met with the head of the Latin King. Understand when our brothers went over there looting y'all communities, because those y'all fathers and grandfathers' stores, that the problem with blacks people on the bus or just walking through and they being attacked. So young guys to shut that down, we ain't gonna hold our little brothers back. Their mamas and their sisters are being attacked. So they agreed to it, and then they had a unity march the next day and all that kind of stuff. And you go through there, they got an arc. They go over 26th Street, the heart of that neighborhood. On one side, on two sides, they got Black Lives Matter. We are stronger together than we are divided. Right? So and that has calmed down. Right? But then again, you got other organizations, nonviolence, that are getting money to do this work, taking the credit. They can't pull something like so. I be used a lot because brothers see me as neutral. I ain't with all that BS. Even if I serve as the national ambassador for the Viceroy Nation. And what that means is a brother decides to take a picture with me, he cannot represent on it. I tell him, put your hands in your pocket. You can't put me on Facebook in that nature, because I'm also the community liaison for all the prisons in Illinois. I go back in the prison. Pre-release work, making a path for brothers come home. And that's not just with Viceroy, that with any brother or sister coming out of prison. I'm the community liaison for those. Because I got my own non-for-profit called National Alliance for the Empowerment of. I got a chapter in Gary. Benny Muhammad, them, and Zolo, them. Yeah, I started that chapter in Gary. It's called National Alliance for the Empowerment.
Hey, do me a favor, Miss Lee. I want you. I don't know if it's the sound. I don't know what happened. But could you say what your organization, the name of it again is, please?
It's called NAFI, National Alliance for the Empowerment of the Formerly Incarcerated.
Yes. All right. Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, man, I tell you what, that was a great question, Long Green. Mr. Moment, you got. It's funny. I'm doing the Zoom stuff every week, and I don't even know how to raise my hand, but you do. So the floor is yours, Mr. Moment. Unmute yourself and ask your question, my man.
Hey, thanks, Moose. Mr. Bendy, thanks for your time and the history. I wanted to ask you, through this process, during those times, with different cities, kind of having some of the same issues. Did Chicago ever cross paths, communicate with Philadelphia with the likes of Noonie Menz, Ron Harvey, Sam Christian from the Nation of Islam, Temple 12? Did you guys ever cross paths and kind of communicate with them?
I don't know with them in particular, but we have dealt with stuff with the Nation of Islam because the Nation has always been like the brothers of the Stone and the Bible. So we used to call on Minister Farrakhan in a lot of ways. I know when I did the presentation in Memphis, Tennessee, the Nation of Islam was present there. The imam over them, he brought him, he was there. But yeah, Sean from the matter of fact, when they had Savers Day in Detroit, I gave a workshop there. Brother Abdullah Muhammad, who's the Islam prison ministry, right? And him was in Stateville Penitentiary together, plus come off the west side with. So the relationship is there. Sean from it, and that brother Caleb Muhammad here in Chicago, who run the Nation on the west side of Chicago, he's constantly in our meetings. We call on him. Matter of fact, he done facilitated us. But when it comes to Philadelphia, you got brothers that deal with that gang piece. One brother in particular named Malik, wheelchair. He's real strong with that. So that's who I make contact when it comes to Philadelphia.
Can I have a follow-up question too? I've heard you talking about Brother Louis Farrakhan. Did you guys ever have any action with Brother Hajj Shabazz?
You talking about Malcolm X?
Yes.
Well, keep in mind, he got assassinated in 1965. I was 11 years old.
Right.
I was around when he was alive, but you keep in mind, it was somewhere around 63 when he was detaching himself from and start his own unity organization, right? So I don't think he frequently visits Chicago during that time. And a lot of his work in his last day was organize black leaders from around the world, example the United Nations, right? To look at this whole thing from a world perspective. Because this whole thing was ain't about civil rights, it's about human rights. That's what a lot of his focus is. So he really didn't have a lot of time for a lot of it. He was trying to organize black leaders all other different continents. I truly believe that's what led to his assassination. So his last days, his last, because see, keep in mind, he got assassinated in '65. The vice lords didn't become incorporated until 1967. But they began to organize on the community level in 1966 after Malcolm got assassinated. That makes some sense. So no way could have had that interaction with him because he got assassinated before we started organizing.
Man, hey, Mr. Moment, that was a great question. Monsky, you are a member of the organizations here in Indianapolis called the Mentor Network. How? I'm sorry.
The Indie Mentor Network.
Yes. How can this information help some of the children that you guys work with right now?
I mean, for them as well as me, growing up in up north, right next to Gary, again, some of that gang stuff kind of trickled over. I'm baffled just how I learned about how the Vice Lords came about and what they represented. All I heard when I was a kid growing up as a teenager was how Larry Hoover was glorified and how the 6-point star, the 5-point star is glorified. But all I knew was that gang. I never knew anything pertaining to how they helped push drugs and other negative things out of the neighborhood, how they organized and were doing things for the black communities. So I know from my standpoint, just as well as the kids we deal with today, they don't necessarily deal with quote unquote the Vice Lords against the Disciples. A lot of different sets, neighborhood sets now, but just to know that how powerful their voice is in the neighborhood now as young folk, how powerful it could be, just as powerful as the founders and co-founders and the people that were involved, the heads of the Vice Lords against the Disciples, what they could do today with all the extra effort that they put into the criminal activity and some of the things they get involved with now. To hear it from some of these older heads, I think would be powerful. And Dwayne is also part of the Indie Mentor Network as well.
Hey, outstanding. Thank you, Ramon. Hey, Mr. Davis, Shaquan Davis, again with the Fintown Academy. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I get so nervous about that kind of stuff. I mess up. Ask Kwame. He got his title so fancy, I hardly ever get it right, when I'm trying to say it. But, man, welcome to...
You got here all the way right. You best minds up all the time.
Shaquan, welcome. Tell us a little bit about why you're here today.
I'm here because, Kwame reached out to me telling me that this conversation was going to be happening. And I am a follower of Honorable Benny Lee and some of his works, watch some of his TED Talks and whatnot. But then also, this is me getting more acclimated back into my scene, because I've been living in LA for a couple years. So this is me getting more acclimated and being able to reach out and connect with other people as far as my organization goes, so that I can get more rooted within my own state.
Okay, so you're from here in Indianapolis or Indiana? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm from Indianapolis.
Okay, all right, cool. And tell us a little bit about Fintown Academy.
So Fintown Academy is a nonprofit organization that is there to basically help the community in ways that others couldn't. As in, so growing up, there was a lot of things I wanted to do within my neighborhood that I couldn't do because I didn't either have the money or I couldn't get to it. Being in LA, I'm a dancer and I'm an actor and I'm a stuntman. but growing up, I couldn't get to that. And there's a lot of kids in my neighborhood that wants to do those things, but it's like they can't get where it is. So Fenton Academy is, number one, a way to help bring education, fitness, and creative arts to them, so it's accessible and affordable for them. Like we have a fighting self-defense class called Fenton Fighters, where we have somebody teaching mixed martial arts for free. We're trying to get a building so that we can, have, dance classes and creative arts classes, and also tutoring and mentoring programs as well. So Fenton Academy is just a lump of things, but it creates a space for the neighborhoods to grow.
Okay, outstanding, man. We appreciate that. Hey, by the way, real quick, you guys listen to Heavy Hitters Radio Show. This is Moose. We got Jeezy's on here somewhere, and there he is. Jeezy's here, Ron is here, and DJ Longgreen. So we're in the house, and we have special guests today, man. We had Ike Taylor on here earlier, and I think he might be back. I can't really tell. There's some folks on that just have their phone numbers and no video, and that's cool. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. We have Benny Lee, man, that's dropping some science on us for sure. Hey, guys, Kwame is back. Kwame is a fan favorite, although some people get scared of some of the stuff he be talking about sometime. But, we still have him back because we respect everybody's message. And then, and then we got some guys from the Indie Mentor Network, Dwayne Moment, and Ramon Webster's in here, and then Colorado, man, just a longtime friend of the show out there in Colorado doing his thing. And so welcome, everybody. Again, man, this is a powerful show. It's about unity. If you're in the chat, you can see that Mr. Lee shared his information. So if you're trying to get a hold of him, for sure. Also, they will be here in town on the 31st. I remember that without even looking. You got to be extra proud of me this time. But it's going to be July 31st at the Hovey Street Church of Christ, 2338 Hovey Street in Indianapolis, July 31st from 6 to 8. Hit up Kwame Shakur if you have any questions. That's Kwame Shakur 2020 at yahoo.com. Kwame, tell us a little bit about what we're going to see that day at the Hovey Street, at the New African Black Panther Party meeting with, and I see Fintown sign is on there. I see, and then Benny Lee is going to be there, and also Ike Taylor. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to see.
So, as you see, well, first of all, I want to say, send my condolences to DJ Longgreen and Jeezy. I know it's hard to lose a close family member. I lost my father, my auntie, and my best friend within less than 2 months. So, I send my condolences to you because I know it's been hard for me. So I know it's hard when you lose somebody as close to you like that. I love all the ones that's on this that come. Absolutely. So I want to say first of all, Shaquan, he's going to be one of the sponsors for this event. That's one reason why I invited him on here because we really believe that in order, like Benny Lee is probably one of my best mentors that I reach out to often to understand history and the context of things. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of our leaders that's today is underutilized sometimes and is not put out here enough. You know what I mean? Like the history right here that y'all heard with the Vice Lords and the Ike Taylor talked about with the GDs and stuff, with the growth and development. I think it's important for the audience to hear this type of stuff because this also is Black history. It's been demonized, it's been minimized because, for a long time, Black leaders was always looked at as the biggest threat in this country. Even J. Edgar Hoover, a month before Martin Luther King was assassinated, J. Edgar Hoover in March 1968 put out a memo that he wanted to prevent the rise of a Black Messiah. And Martin Luther King's name was actually on that memo. As well as Stokely Carmichael, as well as Elijah Muhammad. And they said Malcolm X would have aspired to this position, but he was already taken care of. And what happened? 1 month later, Martin Luther King was assassinated. I don't think that's by coincidence. I think it's by design. Like Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was taken out by this government. Fred Hampton did nothing but positive stuff in our community. In my opinion, he was the greatest leader, especially 21 years old. When I was in prison, it was Fred Hampton. Everybody over here on this radio station know how much Fred Hampton means to me. A lot of stuff I do today is based on Fred Hampton. Me bringing Benny Lee on here and bringing Ike Taylor on here is due to Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton realized that the streets can be a part of the solution because they're the ones that actually understand the conditions in their community. You know what I'm saying? They understand the brothers in their community that they have to reach out to pull back into direction that's going to be about growth and development, about brothers of the struggle, about universal brotherhood, about LSD. You know what I'm saying? And the Panthers, we always had a close relationship with the street organizations. So when I hear the demonization of our street organizations out here, I feel as a Panther that it's my responsibility to bring about a platform for these street organizations to speak for themselves and tell the correct the record. Because at the end of the day, if we really want to stop the violence in our community, we can't go to the same people that's always been undermining our real leaders in our community by assassinating them. We still got leaders that's Panthers that's locked up to this day. Matulu Shakur, Black Liberation Army comrades and Panthers, like Assata Shakur is down there in Cuba right now. This is one of our heroines. This is one of our best women leaders. You know what I'm saying? But this government got her down as a terrorist. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with the Panther movement. We always, because of our politics, we've always put politics to command because we, like Fred Hampton said, it's a class struggle. So when we go at this, we go at it exposed to contradictions in the system, and we do it unapologetically and do so in a way where we unite the people. You know what I'm saying? And not all of us is gonna agree on everything, but I'm like Martin Luther, like Malcolm X. We can have our differences behind closed doors, but when we in public, we stand united as one. You know what I'm saying? This is what the all power to the people really mean. This is what boots on the ground really mean. And me and Shaquan, we're part of the young generation. You know what I mean? We taking the torch from Benny Lee. We taking the torch from Ike. We taking the torch from the ones that's not here to speak for themselves, like Fred Hampton, like Malcolm, like Martin. You know, the fact that a lot of our leaders are still in prison, like Fred Hampton. I'm like Matulu Shakur, like Sundiata Kole, like Momina Abu Jamal, like Larry Hoover, like Jeff Fort. You know what I'm saying? These are our black leaders. You know what I'm saying? That wants to do positive things in our community. So why are they in prison today when they could be doing a lot more out in our community, serving our community? That's what they was doing in the 60s and 70s. You know what I'm saying? So my job is to help expose the contradictions in the system. You know what I mean? As being a revolutionary, so this is what the program is going to be about: is letting the public understand that part of Black history that's been demonized, that's been swept under the rug, that's been hidden from view. But this needs to be taught to our community, because once we cross a bridge within the streets with these street organizations and bring them back to brothers of the struggle, bring them back to what they was being about back in the 60s and stuff, in the 70s, then I think we have an opportunity to start to begin to address the real issues in our community. So this is what this is going to be about. Sometimes in order for you to see where you're going, it's like Franz Fanon said, every generation out of relative obscurity must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it. This is our mission today. And white supremacy is at the top of this government right now. You know, we see how blatant the white supremacy is out here today. You know what I'm saying? They're just down here in Florida, they ran over a protester, a white supremacist. You know what they did? They let the white supremacists go, and locked up the protesters. So you know what we went down there and did? We went down there and joined with those brothers, and we shut down that jail down there, and we demanded that brother get medical attention and be released. You know what I'm saying? I'm down here in Tampa right now with I want to bring her on with Katrina Overstreet. We've been having a lot of problems in our community dealing with human trafficking, organ trafficking. Our black and brown women and children is coming up missing. Down in here in Florida, Tampa is the 7th largest city of human trafficking. Her sister been missing since February. You know, they haven't gave, and this goes on, like, and these, I brought on the last time some of the mothers that had their children killed by the pigs and stuff. You know, I call it for what it is. You dig what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, what George Jackson taught us, he said, Huey P. Newell said, he said, the police has never been our protectors. They've always represented the military repressive arm of the state, continually brutalizing us. For 400 years, we've been experiencing it. Only us have failed to realize the war has been declared on our community. You know, it started off with slave patrols, now to police patrols. 1,000 of us is killed every year by the pigs, but only 1% of us them is ever charged. If any of us was found in that same situation, we could kill a dog. They had Mike Vick locked up for fighting dogs, but we not even rise to the level of being worthy of the sanctity of a dog. You know what I'm saying? So one thing that I'm doing is I'm connecting all these movements with Katrina's sister being missing. We need to have community patrols and stuff down here in Florida and around the country, just like the Vice Lords used to do in their own neighborhood. You couldn't just come in no Vice Lord neighborhood and kidnap one of those sisters. You would have all them brothers right there standing full boots on the ground, you dig? And making sure they protect their community. We need to get back to that. You know what I'm saying? Until we get back to that, we're going to still deal with all this dysfunction that's going on in our community, and it's going to get worse and worse. So it has to start somewhere, and I'm saying it starts now, you know?
Hey, folks, that's Kwame Shakur. I tell you what, so I talked to him pre-show, and you see these traps right here? The reason I got that, because he gets you so fired up, you got to do push-ups and stuff when you get done talking to him so you can calm down, because he had you fired up. So I'm starting to get built. The more I talk to him, the bigger I'm going to be in my chest and neck area, because he gets you so fired up, you got to bust a sweat real quick so you can calm down when he get done talking. Hey, man, I appreciate you. Hey, D-Lo, it's the truth, man. I was sweaty. I'm like, okay, man. What do I need to do? You know, but it did remind me of something though that I was thinking, man. And pardon me for some of my ignorance. I know somewhere in the Bible it talks about, where in a struggle you have men of my age and older are the council members, and then you have the young men are the warriors in the struggle. And I'm gonna tell you, see this right here? I'm at the council. I'm not going out. I'm not doing that. You know, I ain't got. Hey, Mr. Davis, I don't have to win. I don't have to win to get out there like I used to. You know, I need to win. I'm probably gonna need to work out at the Fintown joint. But I know that there has to be something that we do that brings everything together. So Shaquan, as a young man working with the youth, what's the plan?
Oh, you're talking about me. So, I mean, me personally, for good example, I'm gonna give you the one thing that I've been doing is not only do I go into my own community, because my community, personally, where I grew up in is mostly GDs. But then I threw a cookout, and I invited like Panthers, Vice Lords, 5%ers, for June 19th, and had everybody come out. I had DJs, food, nail techs, henna artists, all come out, and it was something that a lot of people have never seen before, or they've only ever heard of. Because it was like that was one of the things that I didn't get to say earlier. My inspiration and my not my idol, but somebody that I strive to move like was Bobby Gore. Everything that Honorable Benny Lee was talking about, I've done my research. You know what I mean? Like, I knew about a good 85%
85 to 90% of it, because it was like I chose not to live within the ignorance, thinking that this is just what it was. And I was like, there's more than that. So one of the things I do is I travel, and I go and I because these grassroots organizations, what some people would call them, are the center of the ones who are going to be able to pull up everything within the community. I'll go to these communities. Like I went to Detroit, Michigan. No, not Detroit. Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I talked to some of the organizations over there about record expungement, legally getting their firearms, building their credit, things to do with their credit, ways they can do it without having to go through too much hassle. So I think, me personally, the way to do it is you have to really link into each community, but you have to give it something to offer. You know what I mean? It's like I know me growing up, there was a lot of people within my neighborhood. They saw me as a dancer. They saw me as this. I did a lot of things. I did sports and everything, but I was considered off-brand, I guess. So it's like we got to normalize these things. Like my nephews and nieces, they follow me, and they do that because I'm a living representation of a black kid can go skateboard, a black kid can go to college, a black kid can like anime and this and that, but also like tattoos and also like sports. And so I'm a physical representation of we can do this. Because growing up, I didn't have a physical representation. It was, we don't do this. Black people don't do this. Why do you act like this? That's not black. So it's like the way to help that is to bring a representation. If we have black representation within our community, then we will always have one representation. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I'm trying to do. It's like I go out to the communities, like when some of the little youngest say, well, we don't do this because of this. Like, well, I'll teach you it. And or they'll see me do it, like, oh man, you actually do this. Like, yeah. So their brain can go from, okay, this is the only thing over here that I see, but now I see this. Now I know that it's okay for someone that looks like me to do this.
Yeah, no, I understand, man. I'm one of those brothers that is relatively well spoken and have been since I was a child. And so what I grew up with was, man, you talk white. No, I don't talk white. That's what my mom taught me. That's how she taught me to talk. I don't know any other way. Now, I am multilingual, don't get me wrong. You know, I can get out there and get down with the best of them if I need to. And I'm just old enough where I'm hip with a lot of stuff and I'm down too. You know, it's all the same language, you know what I mean? But Ron, I want your perspective on this because you are considered an ally in this current struggle. What is your take on what's happening right now? Or this conversation, I should say.
Man, I mean, I think it's been so eye-opening. It's funny that you say that because I was just sitting here thinking, like, so I work with predominantly black students, and I thought, like, as a white woman, am I doing a disservice? Like, am I showing them enough good examples of successful black people and all the ways that they can be involved in the world? So, like, I'm sitting here rethinking what kind of books do I have in my classroom? What kind of things are we teaching our kids? Which is a struggle that I've had my entire career. And so I'm going to say this on the air. I kind of do whatever I want to, and like I'll ask for forgiveness if I need to later. That way, I feel like I can reach the kids the best. But then it's like, what do we do, and how do we get more involved? Because I think some of all the rest of the heavy hitters are older than me, so I'm more in the generation of the warriors, I guess, as Moose wants to say. I mean, that's just real life. I don't know why Moose is giving me that face. So then it's like, okay, how do I also encourage other people to get involved in these things? And I can tell you that I've tried talking to them, and that's not cutting it. So I don't know. I would love some advice on what allies can do, especially allies that are in their 20s and 30s that maybe are more active, like physically active and going to protests and different people.
All right, so I tell you what, Mr. Lee, if you can maybe speak to that a little bit, and then Shaquan, I got you.
Okay, I got a lot of allies. In fact, my office is right next door to Oak Park, and that's a predominantly up to class white community. And we gave presentations to different community groups in Oak Park and how they volunteered to be our allies. They are savvy with writing grants. They savvy in fundraising, and they good in putting us in front of their peers, their community. And out of that, we built a lot of good relationships with people, and even with some black people that don't see themselves as being black because they outgrown the black community. Right? Because you got some, as Malcolm said, you do have some handkerchief ass niggas out there, that outgrew the black community. So you got to use some of them as allies too. So when it comes to allies, and that's I teach brothers here, the brother Shaquan, I traveled, to like Minnesota with the brothers in Minnesota, Rob C. and Bilal and all them guys, they all vice lords in Minnesota trying to do something. And they in your age group, Spaghetti them up in Detroit, they all in your age group. Brothers down in Mississippi, Big Man, all them guys, and Rio, all them guys. I travel, and my message to them is like, man, the community look at you guys as a game, opposed a threat to them, just your presence. To turn that around, I urge them to get with people like Ron EMC and support what she's doing in the community. Join it, and then those people come dependent on you because you bring manpower that they can't bring. Right? Once they become dependent on you, then you can gradually move toward community organization, and now you got the community behind you. You got to make that transition, and allies is very important, all during history, black people have asked, who you think made up the Underground Railroad? Those are white farmers. Them weren't black farmers.
Right.
Them were Quakers, white farmers that made up and create that. They created the Underground Railroad system. Harriet Tubman didn't create that. She got pulled into it and found her way, and she became part. And so these were white people that set up. That's how the women's movement started. Those white abolitionists that fought to abolish slavery, they moved to abolish women being discriminated against. That's why the women's movement started. So it's always been these relationships. Martin Luther King, some of his people that supported him, these were white allies that can get him in places he couldn't get in, right? So it's always been that relation. And anybody that they different, you ain't gonna go too far. You're not gonna go too far. Even during that Hunter trial, we had a group of black lawyers that came together, National Alliance of Black Lawyers. They played a dominant role and led the legal team. But then you have people from the people law. These was white lawyers that Fred Hampton organized. These white lawyers were the Black Panthers lawyers, right? And when they started representing the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton said, hey man, why don't y'all come together, da da da. And that's how the people law office started, from the influence of Fred Hampton. These were white folks, young people. So yeah, allies are very important. Just that we need to know how to build relationships with people outside of our own experiences, right? Like today, I use allies because I know they can get me some doors that if they see me and know who I am, they won't even listen to the door, right? So allies is very important, and I take my hat off to you, my sister. Keep on doing it. All right, just keep on. John Brown was one of the greatest allies during that abolition movement. He was a white minister that said any white person that believed in slavery shouldn't have a life worth living. And he was a Christian minister, John Brown. Right. So yeah, keep doing. That's what you relationships with people that's wealthy or people that own companies. Right? Talk on people that struggles behalf. Put them in front of them so they can meet them themselves. That's some of the things you can do.
Hey, I appreciate that. Shaquan, what are your thoughts as kind of speaking from a younger perspective?
One, I definitely don't know how to top what this happened because Lee just basically said half of what I was, that's a third of what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is that part of my body. If it sounds too wrong, but it's like as an ally, to be specific, as someone who is non-black, what I've noticed, because then we take into account of like I don't know. Like I said, I came into half the conversation when Honorable Benny Lee was talking, so I don't know if he touched on David Dawley, and I mean he touched on the people of the other ground row. The best thing that a non-black ally can do, one of the best things is like he said, you get the connects, and then you put the people who can help who needs to be seen into the mix, because it's like there are people who will listen to you before they'll listen to me. So it's like a non-black ally. Me personally will say that one of the jobs is to reach those who won't listen to me specifically because of what I look like. To speak and to speak to those, and then put me in the position so that I can get deeper, because I'm quote unquote deeper into what's going on. On the other note,
that's all right. I'll try to find and mute it. There you go.
On the other standpoint, though, because I work in treatment centers and I work in homes with juvenile youth. One of the things that helped me is the fact that I come from the similar situations that they are going through. So they'll come to me before they'll go to their therapist, no matter what the color is. It's just simply I have a stronger connection and bond with them. So with working with African American children or other children of color, one of the things I would say, just like Lee was talking about, was bringing us into the fold as well. I mean, it can be looked at as like showing like, oh, I'm down because I got these people with me, but it's like you help us, we help you. You know what I mean? A lot of times it takes one like me or someone like Kwame or someone like Benny Lee, and I would say more so Kwame and I, because the younger generation don't like to listen to. I personally love listening to the elders, but a lot of the younger generations are knuckleheads, so they don't want to listen to the elders because they're like, this is now. And I'm like, it was worse then. So one of the things that you could do is have us come and you have us speak, but also, if you know that there's programs like the stuff that I have, like I don't mind lending or coming out and connecting with those youth. So as an ally, just the best thing that you could do is just like you said, find the right representation, find the books. There will be stuff that you can do and get away with as a non-black influencer that we can't. Like, if I were to bring certain books, I could probably get ran up the wire for it. But like you said, you like to do it and then ask for forgiveness later, which that works. It's like, what I mean? So like, hey, what can I do? Like, where's this? Here's this. Now this might get you ran up the wire, but because the position that you probably hold, it's a little less of a burden, I guess I would say. So that's my thing.
Okay. So you saying like bring them out, man? Bring us out. Ask get us in front of folks and kind of be the liaison or the buffer.
Basically.
Hey, check this out, guys. This is really cool here. I tell you, Kwame, and with his connections and his influence really came through for us tonight. and I don't want to mess this up either. So bear with me for a second. We have Mr. Melvin Lamb here, who is a former general of the El Rukins. He's on. He's listening. And Mr. Lamb, man, I'm so glad you are here. I'm Moose, aka Big House, man, the host of the Heavy Hitters Radio Show, and this is our crew here. I tell you what, man, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I tell you what, if you can maybe get a little, we can, but you are a little low, but yeah, we can't hear you.
I finally was able to get on after trying 1,000 times. I guess I'm gonna take my computer back over Benny's house and let him show me again. I don't know what I did wrong. I punched something. I don't know what I punched. I'm gonna take it over Benny's house and get it together. But I know basically what the topic is, and what's happening is this: is that I've been with Jeff since he won the Blackstone Rangers, then the Black Stone, and then the El Rukins. And the biggest change today is this: is that back then, one word was universal law, even though you had maybe over 100 branches of stone, but just his word was universal law. So whatever he said, everybody that said it was a stone adhered to that. He could say something on the street, and that's what was did on the street, and that what was did in the penitentiary, or wherever a stone was. Even if you see him get out of order or do something, you can say, well, Chief said this, or Chief say, now we do this, and that's what we did. But now, you got just as many fractions, but you got just as many leaders as you got fractions. And a lot of them adhere to it, and a lot of them don't. And so you got brothers still saying that they members of the Black Stone. You got brothers saying they still at Rukin. You got brothers saying they Moors. You got brothers saying, well, we still Blackstone Rangers. And what that does, it creates separation and division. And when you go try to talk to them, you really got a big fight with a little stick. So what's got to happen is what we've been trying to do is reach everybody and tell them, look, we ain't trying to change nothing you do. All we asking you not to do, if y'all into it with each other, don't let it involve women and kids, and don't let innocent people have to suffer the consequences because y'all can't get along. And basically, if y'all would come together and sit down, most of the stuff that you think that you got to get violence or institute violence for, you could basically work it out. So when we hear something, that's what we've been doing. And actually, we putting ourselves on the line because a lot of them young guys don't know us. They have heard of us, but don't know us. So when they meet us physically, your delivery is what's important. And most of the time, I be telling them, look, brother, I ain't coming trying to change nothing y'all doing. Only thing I'm asking you to do is, please, quit letting innocent people have to suffer for y'all disagreements. And most of them, some of them and most of them, they adhere to that because I'm telling them, you're living a lifestyle with a predictable outcome. You're either going to be in the penitentiary or dead. 2/3 of the workforce, you got to have at least some type of college education to get a job. So that means it's only 1/3 of the workforce accepting a high school diploma or GED. So if you ain't got a high school diploma or GED, ain't nobody putting you out the workforce. You're putting yourself out. So at least, if you want to continue this activity, at least go try to get you a GED. Because every time you leave the house, your woman, your wife, your family, don't nobody know if you're going to return because of the lifestyle you live in. So at least try to think about this. See, you got to give them something today to think about. I ain't trying to change that. All I'm trying to really change is your mindset. Because if you got any love for your mama, your daddy, your woman, your wife, or your children, then you're going to try to take another look at what I'm saying and say, well, you know what? He could be right. Because I showed them when I had the mindset that you had, the consequences that I got. And because you got that mindset and you being obstinate, you're going to get the same consequences. Because one thing about it, the consequences ain't changed. Only the consequences done got worse now. See, the lifestyle you living, it's going to catch up with you a whole lot faster, and you're going to suffer a whole lot faster. So look, brother, try to think about this, man. At least try to get your GED, put yourself in the workforce, or try to go back to school and get you some type of education, because without it, it's just a matter of time. You can predict your own demise. You can predict it yourself because of the lifestyle you living. You know, see, when I was coming up, I didn't care what mob you belongs to. If you violated somebody's parents or a child, everybody dealt with you. You couldn't even go to jail. If you shot a child, you couldn't even go to jail. It didn't matter what mob you belongs to, because they held that mob accountable and you. But now, things done changed, man. And it's sad to see, and what they thought they was doing by locking up Jeff and Hoover, they thought they were solving the problem, but they created a monster, because now ain't nobody being held accountable. Ain't no discipline, ain't nobody being held accountable. These guys done turned into renegades. The people that want to try to live righteous is being opposed by the people that's living unrighteous. These brothers done let drugs come in and dominate and take over. So really, whoever got the drugs is the chief. Then they telling on each other. I remember if you told on somebody, you couldn't even come in the community. It didn't matter what mob you belonged to then. You couldn't go to jail. You couldn't tell on nobody in this state. You had to leave a whole state if you told on somebody. That ain't the case no more. See, it didn't matter what mob you belonged to. They heard that blood was telling on somebody, but they used to call me and say blood. I couldn't even go to jail. But ain't nobody being held accountable no more. And Mayor Lightfoot and the superintendent of police, they keep switching the superintendent. That letting you know he ain't the answer. Mayor Lightfoot ain't the answer. We the one that's got to change everything. And we got to change it by trying to change those brothers' mindset, man. Because the first thing they want to know, see, if you got the experience and you done been through it, I ain't just telling them what I heard. This ain't no theory. I'm telling them facts. That I done lived through this. And the only reason I'm still alive today because I had to change my life, man. And you're going to have to do the same thing if you intend to live. You know, Billy Lee got an excellent philosophy that I done gave my son. I done gave both of my sons. You know, and Billy Lee's 3 philosophies is before you try to do anything or establish anything, you got to stay alive, stay out of jail, and stay drug-free. I tell my son, that's what he got to do every day. You got to stay alive, you got to stay out of jail, and you got to stay drug-free. And if you're not doing that, then what's going to happen is you're creating your own demise. Because not only is the laws done changed, they're doing things different, man. And whether people want to accept it or not, to me, ain't nothing really changed for slavery. They just done traded the rope for the gun. Because they kill us when they get ready, man. And they don't have to have no reason for doing it. So you got to now learn how to protect yourself when the police stop you, because you don't know if you're going to jail or to the graveyard. And what's important is you got to educate yourself, you got to educate these brothers, you got to educate your family. It doesn't matter if the police is right or wrong. It's what's important is how you conduct yourself so that you're able to go home. Because once they stop you, if you notice, there's always 3 of them. They're always in an unmarked vehicle. So that's 3 against 1, man. And whatever they say, that's what the people are going for, especially if you're a person like me with a background. Now, I ain't been to jail in over 30 years, but if I get stopped and they pull some shenanigans, it's going to be like I ain't never changed my life. So it's important when they stop me, because, look, they talk to me, but when they tap in my background, it's a different story. Their whole attitude changed. Because they still looking at me as General Akbar Khan. They ain't looking at me as Melvin Lamb, a person that changed their life over the last 30 years. Because now, the police used to get a day off. They stop you, and they arrest a Benny Lee or a Melvin Lamb, they give them a day off. So now we ain't about a day off. We career moves for these people now. So if they catch you in some shenanigans, it's a career move for them. So what you got to do, man, you got to keep thinking, and you can't stop in the house and out the house. You got to always be aware, and you know somebody to tell you, well, these people don't do that. They don't do that. You ain't got to do nothing. All you got to do is be available. That's all you got to do. And they take the opportunity to take advantage of you or take advantage of the situation. I'm going to the store. Man. I'm in my 60s. I'm on my way to the store. It's stopping me, asking me, where am I going and where I just come from. What you mean, where am I going? Just got off work. I got the right to go to the store, come out my house and walk to the store. They're asking me, where am I going? But I know there's 3 Caucasians with 3 guns. So I say, officer, I just got off work. I'm trying to go to the store. And I asked you, why you stopping me? So I got to humble myself, force humility, so I can get back home. Do you have any ID? Yes, I do, sir. It's in my back left pocket. Would you like to get it? No, you get it. No, sir, I think you should get it. Then they look at my ID, look at my work ID, say, yeah, you can go on. But why are you stopping me? First of all, you're in an African-American neighborhood. Y'all are 3 Caucasians. Why are you stopping me at 11:30 at night? What's the reason? I ain't commit no crime. I'm walking down the street, and you can't say I look suspicious because you can't show me. How do a person look when they look suspicious? Tell me, how do you look suspicious?
I know, hey, Mr. Lamb, I know one way you look suspicious. If you're about 6 foot something, if your skin is darker than most people, and you got your hair is different than the other people, and you're walking around at any time, day or night, that makes you suspicious.
Yeah, but hey, look, Don Cheadle, the actor, he said it best. He said, the only crime I commit is waking up black. That's the only crime I commit every day. I got to wake up black. I can't change that. So what we got to do, we got to educate each other, man. We got to educate each other. And look, those young guys, whether we look at it or not, they are responsibility, man. They are responsibility. And we got to try to make an effort every day, man, every opportunity we get to try to talk to them, man, and try to reach them. And look, I be telling Benny, hey, man, we can't get involved in this is cool. This platform is cool, but we can't get involved, man, with every crime because, look, we can't afford to. Because they look at us, they don't look like we going trying to help somebody or we trying to get involved in stopping the violence in the community. They say, oh, yeah, Melvin Lamb and Benny Lee, they're organizing again. They want to run the streets again. They want to reclaim their status. So you know, we got to be real careful, man. And then the people that you associate yourself with and the people that you get involved with, all these movements, you got to be careful, man. Because, look, they done got so sophisticated now, man. They play so many games and so many tricks. You know what I'm saying? You can lay here and get a conspiracy to something and ain't had no involvement, ain't had nothing to do with it. And they trying, like I told you, they trying to make a career move, man. And if you think they ain't, there's something wrong with you. I know the game they play, and I know how they play it, and you got to forever have on your thinking cap, man. Because to them, I'm not Melvin Dwayne Lamb. I'm still General Akbar Khan that used to be jail for security. That's how they look at me.
Hey, so Mr. Lamb, I got a question for you. So can you, I mean, you know, Mr. Lee and Mr. Taylor gave us some great history on how their organization started. And I guess in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, there was so much unity back then, but it sounds like there was maybe 3 or 4 main sects or groups. what's the reason that, or how did the El Rukns or the Stones come out? Like, you tell us a little bit about that.
What you mean?
The,
how
like,
did
so,
the Stones start? The history of the Stones, how did it evolve to El Rukns?
Well, Bull, Eugene Harrison, he used to be part of the. He come up on 63rd and Hopper. He was they was Hopper Raiders, and Jeff came up on 65th and Dorchester. They was Blackstone Raiders before it was Blackstone Rangers. And then when they got together, they changed it to the Blackstone Rangers. And it started off to protect the neighborhood, because if you know about 63rd and Stony Island, at one time didn't nobody have businesses over there but Italians and Jews. And so what we did back then was to protect the neighborhood. Like back then African Americans was poor, but we were the one doing all the shopping in the neighborhood, spending all the money in the neighborhood. But they wasn't letting us go with 50 cents or a quarter, so we went to all them stores and told them, look, we the one patronizing y'all. The way y'all survive is with us. So what y'all gonna have to do is allow these people that don't have enough money to start coming in here and getting food on credit so they can feed their families and their kids. And if y'all don't, we're gonna shut y'all down. So that's how it started off. And we was in the community. Matter of fact, a lot of them didn't want to go for it, and we ran a lot of them out the neighborhood. And the ones that did, they conformed. So what happened was, I don't know if you know Singali, but Singali, he came here from New York. And when Singali came upon the Blackstone Rangers, he started studying Eastern culture and what you call today black culture. And so he started studying the pyramid. He started studying the pyramid, told us what it meant, the sun and what it meant. And so Jeff actually the one, him and Singali changed it from the Blackstone Rangers to the Black Peace Stone Nation. And what the peace stand for, it was people, power, prosperity, progress, and peace. The P represented 5 things. 21 stones represented, at that time, the 21 leaders in the organization that came from different neighborhoods and different organizations. The star represented the knowledge from the East, but it was represented North, East, South, and West because we was North, East, South, and West. The sun represented life. If you ever see the symbol of the Black Peace Stone Nation, they got the sun, which represented life, and we wasn't saying at that time, Lord God, we were saying the Almighty. And if you notice, we said that Almighty Black Peace Stone Nation. So Almighty represented the God entity. The black was us, the people. And the stone represented the foundation and the knowledge that came from the East. And so when we changed from Blackstone Rangers to Black Peace Stone Nation, you had brothers that was with Eugene Harrison that didn't want to change, but they did eventually conform. Just like when Jeff went to the penitentiary and got the knowledge of the Moors, signed Temple of America, and came home and told us that we were no longer going to be the Black Peace Stone Nation because he had studied the history of the Moors. So when he came home, he said we was going to be Moorish Americans. Moorish Americans, still be Blackstone, but we was going to be Moorish Americans because now we had the knowledge of self. We know why we was represented by the pyramid, the sun, the star. But the only thing he changed and put a name from the Almighty to Allah. And then a lot of brothers didn't want to conform from the Black Peace Stone Nation to El Rukns. A lot of them wanted to stay. And that was the biggest division. Coverstone didn't want to be El Rukns. Brothers in the penitentiary, or a lot of brothers that was with Bull, they didn't want to change from Black Peace Stone to El Rukns. So what Jeff did was call a meeting. He said that everybody that wanted to be with Bull get on this side of the room, and everybody wanted to be with him get on this side. Well, everybody except
5 people got on board side. Everybody else agreed to be roofers, including myself. And this is what happened too, what a lot of people don't know. See, Bull went to the penitentiary in 1968 for 9 years. So a lot of people didn't know Bull. A lot of them didn't have no relationship with him. They only had a relationship with him from 65 to 68. That ain't never 3 years. Penitentiary in 1968, you really didn't have no relationship or know him unless you went to the penitentiary. And a lot of brothers in the penitentiary, he had to be pointed out to them. They still didn't know who he was. So when he went to the penitentiary, Jeff came to the forefront. So people was able to see him every day. They was able to have a relationship with him. They were able to get to know him. So quite naturally, they grew more toward him. And so when they went to the penitentiary, brothers really didn't know Bull. They had to be introduced to him. And the only person Bull really knew is the people that he came up with. A lot of brothers he didn't know neither. So they felt like he was antisocial. But it didn't matter where you came from. Their personality was different as night and day. Jeff embraced him. So what happened was, and it's just my observation, I think Bull's attitude and him going to the penitentiary that early worked against him. So everybody they gravitated more towards Jeff because they really got to know him. See, this is what a lot of people don't know. Leonard Longstreet was really the leader of the Black Disciples. That's who started. I mean, not Leonard Longstreet, but same thing happened with him. I think the brother went to the penitentiary for double murder.
Mickey Jenkins.
Mickey Jenkins. That's who really was the leader of the Black Disciples. That's who really formed it. But that's the same thing happened with them when Mickey Jenkins went to the penitentiary for the double murder. David Boxdale came to the forefront. And so all while he was in the penitentiary, David started running the disciples. And that's why a lot of people think he's the leader, the founder, and the person that hit, but he wasn't. It was Mickey Jenkins. That's who really formed and started the Black Disciples. Same thing happened with Bull. A lot of people think Jeff started, but he didn't. Eugene Haston really was the chief of the Black Stone Rangers and the Black Peace Stone Nation. But when he went to jail, Jeff came to the forefront, and he wound up when he came home from the penitentiary. That's when he took over. But he had took over in the street. Bull had a lot of say-so in the penitentiary, but Jeff had all the say-so in the street. So he went to the penitentiary. The same brothers that was following him in the streets now following him in the penitentiary. So Bull's biggest controversy was trying to get people to conform, and he had to tell a lot of people, I'm the leader, and tell people who he was. But the reason people wasn't respecting him because they didn't know him, and so that became a problem for him. And then when Jeff came home, he still respected Bull because a lot of guys wanted to do something to Bull, and he wouldn't let them. They had various disagreements with him. You know what I mean? And I think it hurt him. It hurt him to a degree. You know what I'm saying? That everybody gravitated toward Jeff, but it is what it is.
Hey, Mr. Lamb, man, you dropped straight science on us. And real quick, there's a couple things you said that I want to point out to people. You talked about the teachings of the Moor Americans, and the Moors were defined as descendants of Northern Africans who preached the importance of being oneself, how to be better citizens, to uplift fallen citizens, teaching them to be attributes to the government. He also taught the importance of racial pride. So the Moors talked about being sovereign citizens, espousing the anti-government doctrine in which the members claimed to be a part of the sovereign nation. So essentially, the Moors believed that the statutes as members of the sovereign nation imparts immunity from federal, state, and local authorities. So they believed that they were that they were the descendants of the Most High, I guess is the best way I can say that for people to understand. And then and there's still people this day, by the way, that talk about being Moorish Americans. I mean that is something that is what's that?
And the judge was talking to Jeff. You remember when he got more time than anybody in the state of Illinois for a roach, for a marijuana roach. He got 4 days. But look, while we was in court, Jeff told the judge. The judge said something to him, but Jeff said, "Look, you can't talk to me like that no more. I know who you is, so that means you got to know who I am." The judge took a recess. He stopped the whole court. He took a recess. And so then, when he brought Jeff back out, he said, "So who are you?" And Jeff told him, he said, "Look, I'm Asiatic." He said, "I'm not black." He said, if I was black, that means I got to be painted, colored, stained, or dyed." He said, "Do it look like I've been painted, colored, stained, or dyed?" He said, "I'm a human being, an Asiatic human being. The hue is the shade of my skin, and the being is my physical self." He said, "So you a Caucasian or European, and we do not wish to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale skinned nations of Europe, either serve the gods or their religion." You know what he said to Jeff then? He said, "That's why you got more time than anybody in the state of Illinois, and that's why you got 4 days for that marijuana road." And Jeff said, "I know that." He said, "I know that." So I think they was most scared of who we had become.
Mm-hmm.
Because they seen we had woke up, the knowledge of self. They see we was wearing feathers, we was wearing Eastern garments, we was carrying nationality cards, and we was telling them who they were. So, and look, they fear any African American that got the knowledge of self. If you notice, they don't dislike Farrakhan because he talking about the Jews. He done made it plain he ain't got nothing against Jews. But they don't like he teach the knowledge of self. That's what they don't like. See, they don't like us. Look, when we had LSD, Lloyd Stone's and Vice Lord. See, you know what? Check this out. They ain't never worried about nobody selling dope. Never cared about nobody selling dope. But you check this out. They want to know how African Americans, uneducated, can take a key of drugs and break the whole key down in bags and tell you how much money they're going to get, how much money the workers going to get, how much profit they're going to make, how much money they're going to put back into it, and don't have a pencil or a pen. Don't have a piece of paper, a pencil, or a pen. Now, if a person can break down a key of drugs mathematically with no pen or pencil and piece of paper, what you think they can do if they start buying real estate?
Right.
You don't have to get nobody no 40 acres or a mule. Don't you know if all the Vice Lords and all the Stones and all the disciples buy property, we'll own Chicago. And so what happened? We as El Rucan started buying buildings. We had 9 buildings. So what did they do? In 1962, the RICO and racketeering law was abolished. Abolished means destroyed, means you can't bring it back. So what did they do? In 1984, they reinstituted the RICO and Racketeering Act. They came after us. Then they got the disciples. Then they got the Vice Lord. So they raised the racketeering influence corruption organization. So what did that do? That means that if they can prove that you bought one thing with drugs, they can take everything you got. They didn't prove that, but they reinstituted the RICO and racketeering, and all they got to do is create what they do all the time. Look, Hoover don't even know what crack look like unless he's seen it on TV. The man don't even know what crack look like unless somebody showed it to him. So how has he got a conspiracy to sell something he don't even know what it looks like?
Right.
He got 6 life sentences. see what I'm saying?
So
they create laws for us.
So is he considered a?
And I know this person. I ain't just telling you trying to defend his name. Jeff wasn't finna blow up nothing.
Right.
I know he ain't.
So
what did they do? Say, man was a terrorist. Somebody, man, look, you sold him a rocket launcher, don't even work. That's entrapment. You knew it didn't work when you sold it to him. How you gonna blow up something? If you sell me a gun and it don't work, how you gonna say I got a conspiracy to kill somebody? You done sold me a gun that don't even work. So the most you can get me for a deceptive practice. They create laws for us, man. You know what I'm saying? Then when they know you got the knowledge of self, just look at the transformation with disciples and vice lords and stones, how we talk to each other, the language they use. You think them people don't know that? They say, what if the stone, the vice lord, and the disciples get together and start buying real estate? Come on, man. We kicking the mathematics. If they all start buying real estate, what's gonna be left? Nothing. We gonna own it. It ain't just in this city. If Crips and Bloods got together and start buying real estate, look at it, man. And they know that. And they got to constantly keep putting a wedge or division, man, because they do not want us to get together and try to create nothing, man. They don't want us, keep being ignorant, keep shooting at each other, and keep going to the penitentiary.
Hey, Mr. Lamb, man, I definitely appreciate the jewels, man. You dropping once again knowledge on us that, man, that not a lot of us knew. I know Mr. Lee knows, and it looks like Shaquan is a for lack of a better word, a student of what you guys are talking about. Mr. Moment, you got a question?
Yeah, yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
Hey, I wanted to ask. I've been hearing a lot of conversations tonight. Obviously, appreciate the information. I'm probably after the two guys that's in the speak night, Mr. Benny and the last gentleman. I might be the next oldest person. So,
you're definitely older than me, Mr. Moment.
Yeah, in my 50s. So I'm still younger than those guys, but might be the next oldest person. So, got a lot of the history going up in Philly. About a lot of the things, especially after the Vietnam, or actually even during the Vietnam, but towards the end of it, Woodstock era. This is kind of basically the era that we're kind of talking about. I wanted to ask, how much did the heroin, play a part in kind of destroying a lot of our communities as well? I haven't really heard too many people that spoke tonight about the drug situation. It's kind of been absent, but in our communities, it was huge during that time in Black communities. If someone of you guys can speak towards that.
Well, see, back then, it was a law with us. If they kept using drugs, it wasn't gonna be a good look. And like I told you back then, one word was universal. So it went all over the city. You get caught messing with heroin, it was a no-no. For a lot of brothers, things happened to them. And the thing that happened to a few brothers was enough for the brothers that wasn't involved or got involved. They were going to do it out of fear. Because it was a no-no. That was blackball. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't do that. Now, did some brothers still do it? Yes, they did. But on a whole, that was blackball. And then we kept it out the community. You can sell your dope, you just can't sell it in this community. So, cocaine did way more damage to different organizations and different neighborhoods than heroin. You had a few people messing with heroin. So that was like being pregnant. You only had that for so long. But that crack.
Yeah, I'm talking about before. The crack was more in the 80s era. That's my era. That's when I was actually a young guy lesson in my 20s. I remember that era very well, especially in Philly. But I'm talking about the heroin, the cocaine, the weed, the hash.
Brothers were scared to mess with heroin. If you mess with heroin, then something bad would happen to you. And that's all I can say. But if you mess with heroin, something bad would happen to you, extremely bad. So that was a no-no. Now you still have some guys that did it, but for the most part, on a large scale, that was a no-no.
I know. Going from the 60s to the 70s, era when George, Bobby Gore was in George, happened to get killed, and the Vietnam War was coming to an end. So a lot of those Vietnam veterans was coming back to the States, not just in Chicago, in California, Detroit, and they were strung out on heroin, opium, but they had a stronger potency over in Vietnam than they did here in the States. And so them brothers was trained killers. And they were searching for the heroin the best way they can, and someone was bringing it back over here, right? And so that, if you ever see that movie called The Panther, there's a movie called The Panther about the Black Panther, and that's the name of the movie, The Panthers. And there was a scene in there when the FBI declared that the Black Panthers was the most threat to this whole nation. And they met with this drug lord, Italian drug lord, on the boat. And he said, I can destroy the Panthers because I'm going to flood their community with this heroin and they're going to be killing each other. And if you notice, that destroyed California. Huey P. Newton fell out with Bobby Seale because Huey became a gangster. It wasn't about the community no more. Let the truth be told. Huey became an addict. Huey was extorting pimps, drug dealers, and ended up getting killed himself in a robbery, right? And that not just happened in California, but in Detroit, because you had some mobs in Detroit just as strong as they were in Chicago. In Gary, y'all had the family. That was a strong mob in Indiana. In Gary, the family. Them brothers was like the outfit, right? And that heroin really flooded the community. But like Melvin was saying, if you was part of Stones, especially, that was a damn no-no about using or selling some heroin. But when it came to Vice Lord on the west side, Bobby Gordon was locked up. My generation, we was coming out of youth store and all that kind of stuff, and that became the culture of the streets. Getting high, hustling, being pimps and players. That was the era. Even the music supported it. Sly Stone singing, I want to take you higher. The Temptations saying, I want to take you on Cloud 9. And then you go into the movie Superfly. That became the era. With our generation, we made a generation shift from the Black Power movement in the 60s, right, to that Superfly era. And that's kind of like infiltrated, so-called, that drain culture. And then in the 80s, New Jack City hit the street, and that thing shaped. But now you start seeing street gangs controlling the drug market, right? And then in the 90s, crack and all that stuff became prevalent because it was the Stones, Jeff Ford, and they're really the one that kept crack out of, crack didn't hit Chicago for a long time. And street gangs pretty much controlled what drugs would be sold and came into the city and what drugs went. And it was really Jeff Ford and the Stones that really made it where crack could not even come in Chicago. Somehow it slipped in. Jeff was behind the walls by that then. And the feds that did their job to dismantle that with that, like Mel was saying, with the COINTELPRO movement, counterintelligence movement, and that RICO Act and all that stuff, and they moved from just recognizing the street gangs as gangs, but recognizing them as organized crime, right? And that's how the flood hit, right? And then that's when you start seeing street gangs controlling the drug market and all that stuff. But it began with the Vietnam War. those veterans coming back. And then you got to remember, a lot of those veterans were Stones and Disciples and Vice Lords coming back after they got drafted. And they brought war tactics back.
Yes, sir.
So, something like that movie, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. The brothers came out of Vietnam War. They came back training brothers how to properly use weapons and shit like that. Yeah.
Then you gotta realize something, man. In Chicago, the reason that organizations didn't get involved with drugs, but they were sold out of houses. You didn't have nobody on the street selling drugs.
Right.
You had to go to a drug house. Somebody was selling drugs out the house. You know, they had dope houses then. These organizations brought the drugs to the street. So if you didn't know where the houses was or know somebody in the house, you couldn't even go buy drugs, even if you wanted it. If you didn't know the people that ran the house or somebody that could take you there, you couldn't even buy drugs. So that stopped a lot of it. That stopped people from getting introduced and finding out about it because people was going to dope houses. But once it came to the street, then it made it available to everybody.
Man, hey guys, everybody, you listen to the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. If you tuned in the last little bit, I have not done a radio spot in a minute because I just been sitting here trying to keep my mouth closed so I don't look like I lost IQ points because there's been so much great information. So this is Moose, aka Big House, man, Heavy Hitters Radio Show. We got about 39 minutes left of our broadcast, and we're gonna. You know what? If these folks stay with us, we're gonna keep going. You know, we're gonna keep going for sure. And maybe what I'll do is towards the end here, we'll try to have a little bit of fun, and we'll do some brews and reviews on these young men, these legends on something, because especially when Benny Lee was talking about when Benny Lee was talking about some of the movies and things he saw back in the day, I thought it was amazing. You know what? But he got to go because he's a grandpappy. He's a grandpappy. He's got to take care of his grandson. So, Mr. Lee, I tell you what, you got any final words before you go?
Well, I'm sure Mel can hang on a little longer because he got on a little late, started late. He can hang on a little later. Anything I can answer, he can answer. You know, me and Mel, he saved me one time. We was in Ohio, and some vice lords in Ohio heard I was in Ohio, in Cleveland, and they wanted to meet me. And I was like, I'm going with you. And, you know, he went over there with me, and next you know that shit, he got getting so crowded up there, I started to get nervous. But I'm like, man, what you going? All right. But we've done a lot together. We still do a lot today, you know, for us trying to shut things down with the little influence we got left. You know, like out west, you had fractions of vice lords at war with each other. You know, now they got these little cliques. You know, like you got the L Block boys, they folk on the hustles. And you got the Alley boys, they folk on the hustles. Then you got the Jack boys, they folk on the hustles. And then you got Undertaker vice lords. Now they got the Cicero, the Money Team, they Undertaker vice lord. Then you got the Kilpatrick Money Gang, they Undertaker vice lords, but they're at war with each other, you know. So maybe about last year or so, we was able to bring two groups together, some mafias and some foes together, the L Block boys together. And from that, they said, well, you need to bring this group and that group. So we ended up with 9 little cliques together. They came to an agreement on how they were going to move. They set up a system now that they would investigate shit before they started reacting to each other. And that kind of calmed some things down. And that come from, and it shocked me that these young brothers even knew who I was. Right? Because, like I said, I've been out the loop 30-something years. I was surprised they still know who I was. Right? And they respect me and allow me to facilitate that process. And we took that same table inside the county jail. Now the brothers in the jail has got a table in the jail. So those that leaving the jail coming out to the table, those that at the table go to jail, get to the table in the jail to calm stuff down, because our communities is divided. We've got half our community in jail and half on the streets. You know, that's what a lot of these legislators don't get. You know, them people in the county jail, in the penitentiary are our people from our community. They're going to come right back to these communities. So we got to don't forget those behind the wall. If you got a program out here, make sure that program is behind the wall also. Prepare them to come home to your program. That's what I do when it comes to pre-release. We are in the penitentiary, raising brothers awareness. You know, we believe in one African proverb: you can't build your shield on the battlefield. You can't wait till you out on the battlefield and your opposition is attacking you, and you don't have a shield to defend yourself. Chances are you're gonna lose that war. So it's shield building time while you're doing time. So it's a big difference in serving time versus making time serve you. So how are you making this time serve you? You know, Vice Lords, we had an oath we took. You know, I've been a me as representative of Almighty Conservative Vice Lord Nation, solemnly swear to never dishonor my most sacred weapon, meaning Lord unity. Nor the threat of death would I deny my brother. I will serve my time constructively. On my release, I become a more productive member of my community. That's a hope we took, right? And so going behind those walls is raising brothers' awareness, bringing them to a new understanding of the history, what it's about. So when they come out, they can come out with a different mind, like Melvin talked about, with a different mind and with a different interest. Like I never tell a little guy, now you need to get out the mob. Because if I'm telling him to get out the mob and what's wrong with it, and he's part of the mob, then I'm really saying there's something wrong with him. Then I'm going to run into some defense. I never tell him to get out the mob. I ask him a simple question. Well, where are you trying to go with your life? Right? And he stumbled like Scooby-Doo. Because a lot of young people don't have a vision. So with my experience, I know I got to pull a vision out of him. Like, for example, do you want to have your own apartment? You want to be employed, game employed? You know, what are some other things you thrive to accomplish? Now I'm pulling this vision out of him. Then once I pull that out of him, I said, man, let me ask you, what do you got to do to get there? What does you have to do to make that a reality? And they like, what? So I pull examples out. Do you feel you need to get a school, get a job? What are some other things you have to do to make that a reality? Then the third question is, what do you know about yourself that might block you from reaching those goals? And like Melvin was saying earlier, I come up with that three-pronged approach. I say, brother, the first thing you got to do is stay alive. You can't get killed. Ask yourself, can you get killed just by hanging with some of the guys you hang with? Just think about it. Some of these guys you hang with, if you just be walking down the street, can you just get killed just by being with them? Or being in some of the places you normally hang out at, doing something, can you get killed? So you may want to minimize the possibility you getting killed. And some of those things is looking at how can you get killed at a speed rate, right? Then the second thing is you got to avoid getting arrested because you ain't going to reach your goal locked up. And ask yourself, can you get locked up hanging in some of the places you hang out at, hanging with some of the people you know and hang out with? So you need to minimize the possibility of getting locked up. And three, you're not going to get where you're going high. It ain't going to happen. So that's my approach to them. I never tell them to get out of a game, but I try to pull a vision out of them and get them to see it's all on you. You know, I know one of my greatest nightmares when I was in the penitentiary that my mama would die while I was in the penitentiary. I didn't want that to happen. And I thought about it. I hadn't did not one thing to make my mama proud of me at that time. And it was a burning desire of me to get out just to make my mama proud of me. And I was able to do that. So when my mother passed, she was proud of me. She saw me become a father. She saw me become a grandfather. Saw me become a professor at a university. Saw me get degrees, stay married. I've been married over 32 years. I ain't been locked up. I ain't been high in 36 years. She saw this, and she would brag on me when I go to church, and she would show me off to a friend. So when my mother died, I was okay with it, because I knew I did what was in my heart to do to make my mama proud of me. And I say this, too. I know one of my prayers, God answered. God answered my mama prayers. He answered her prayers. And he answered her prayers that got me together.
Right.
So I'm going to get off here because I got to get up here with my 7-year-old grandson. I hear him getting a little too loose up there, even though my wife is up there. I had to rush on this here, so he's feeling neglected. So I got to get on up there. But it's more than an honor being here. Some of you all I will see on the 30th because I'm going to be in Indianapolis that Thursday, and I'm going to be leaving that Saturday evening, I think.
Okay.
So thanks for having me. Brother Melvin, I see you, Brother Akbar Khan. Stay safe. Talk with you.
Yes, sir.
Man, thank you very much for being Heavy Hitters Radio Show, Mr. Lee. Take care of your grandchildren, and I plan on trying to see you when you get here on around that weekend.
I definitely want to meet the brother Shaquan, man, because I'm about turning whatever I have over, because it's their turn now.
He's the guy.
And Shaquan, young brothers will tell me, say, well, you know, Bentley, y'all dropped the ball. You know how I respond to them?
What?
Where's the ball at now?
Facts.
What you gonna do? You got it now, and what you gonna do with it? We dropped it, and what you gonna do with it? All right.
We are the light torches now, man. And people don't understand that.
All right, I'm down to meet you when I get out there, my brother.
Likewise.
All right, y'all peace.
Thank you,
well.
man.
What's happening on the 30th?
So Mr. Lamb, Ike Taylor and Benny are coming to Indianapolis. They're going to be speaking. I got to pull up my notes here. They're going to be speaking at the Hovey Street Church. It's on July 31st, actually, when they're speaking at the Hovey Street Church from 6 to 8, and it's sponsored by the new African Black Panther Party. But what's that?
What day is it?
You know what? What
Friday.
is it? A Friday?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I'll be able to come with him. Then I'm off on Friday and Saturday.
Oh man. Well, they're gonna be real excited when I tell them that you're gonna show up.
Show up with him. Now, where I live at, I stay on 76th and South Shore in Chicago. Now, they got brothers over here. Now this area, they done named it Terror Town. They got Terror Town. They got Unlimited. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, actually, be in your area. My grandmother lives on 78th and through.
78 what?
I always pronounce it wrong, but through. True. Yeah,
that's west. I stay east. I stay on 76th and South Shore.
Well, I'm talking about south.
True south, but it's southwest. I stay southeast.
Okay.
Yeah, Chicago State is the dividing line for east and west. She's still on the other side of the state going west. Matter of fact, she's still on the other side of Halston. That's west.
Yep.
But I stay on South Shore. I stay right by the lake.
Yep.
All right, so
yeah. Well, where your people stay is considered Inglewood.
No, she's more specifically in I might have said the number wrong, but it's like what is it, Auburn Gresham?
She's still on Troop. Auburn Gresham. That's Inglewood. And listen, they say that's the most dangerous and worst part of Chicago. Inglewood.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So I tell you what, Mr. Lamb, if when you're here on the that Friday the 31st, I think that's going to be amazing. Especially speaking at the church with some of your as Kwame would say, your comrades, Ike Taylor and Benny Lee, man. That's gonna be pretty monumental. My hope is that the young guys around here, and Shaquan, you can speak to this probably. My hope is that they all understand the significance of this meeting and are able to come together without incident. Shaquan, can you speak to that?
Just to give a little bit further the background, I am a part of one of these organizations as well outside of my own. And I'm sorry that it's dark. I'm outside. Outside of my own, and I particularly preach on the pushing of the positive movement. So in the case we would have knuckleheads, we're not going to have that issue regardless, because I know that my people will be there to make sure that things go and run smoothly.
So what organization are you a part of, may I ask?
I'm a conservative.
Vice Lord?
Yes, sir.
Now, Big House, another part of history. You know, at one time, Vice Lords, Latin King, and Stone, it was against our law to get into it with a Vice Lord because if Benny Lee was still on here, anyway, Callaway and Eugene Harrison, they first cousins.
Okay.
And so he was the leader and founder of the Vice Lords, and Wool was the founder, one of the founding leaders of the Black Keystone Nation. So it was against our law to get into it with a Vice Lord or a Latin King, because we all was under the fire. So it's our laws to do that. You know what I mean? So whenever we went in jail and there was a problem, we would band together.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do that. You know what I mean? And so by us being family members, that's how a lot of static and a lot of the confusion got. Or they didn't want to get into it because they didn't want to get into it with all three of us.
Right.
Now where I live at, look, you got Stones over here, but it's Terrortown. Some of them belongs to No Limit. They don't listen to nobody. They belong to No Limit. Then you got some Moors over here, brothers that saying they ain't Moors. You got some brothers saying they are Rubens. So you got 4 different fractions right over here where I live at. And now No Limit and Terrortown is into it with each other. And we done went that 1,000 times. Every time we mediated and they agreed, it looked like it don't last a week. And there they go again. Don't last 2 weeks, there they go again. And it just happened again yesterday. So we supposed to go tomorrow and try to mediate it again. But what my thing is now, I'm telling the guys that's in No Limit and the guys that's in Terrortown, y'all need to mediate that yourself. Why is y'all letting one person cause a problem for all of y'all?
Right.
When all of y'all say y'all the same thing, then that means somebody in Terrortown ought to be able to speak for all of y'all. And somebody in No Limit ought to be able to speak to all of y'all. Now you say you speak for all of No Limit, but why is you allowing him to get into it with Terrortown? It don't make sense to me. So what's going to happen is, every time y'all do something, keep involving all of y'all, and what's going to happen, all of y'all going to be gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we supposed to go sit down and talk to them tomorrow, but truth be told, I'm getting kind of tired. You know what I mean? Trying to talk to these brothers, and they agree while you right there, and it lasts about a week. And then, like I say, one of them will go on 75th from 79, or one will go from 75th to 79, and there it go again.
Man, yeah, I commend you. Like you said, you've been around a long time, and are out there making it happen. And still trying to keep these young guys together. I know, like, the murders in Chicago are just astronomical, and the part of us making changes right now is that the folks, that the adversaries, can say, well, look at all the murders you're doing in Indianapolis. Look at all the murders you're doing in Chicago, and that becomes a sounding board for them to say that Black lives don't matter, or the struggle's not real because they're killing each other, that kind of thing, or the net. What do they say? Black on black crime. Even though we already talked about that on this show, but. Man, I definitely commend you for being out there and still having what Kwame would say is boots on the ground. Hey, Moment, did you have a question for Mr. Lamb?
Shirt made, if Black Lives Matter, stop killing each other.
You're exactly right.
So we should have them by Friday. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, stop killing each other.
I like it. Dwayne, you have something?
No, I just wanted to say, to your point, that as many people, and I hate to say it this way because I'm not diminishing anybody's life, but on the average, on a real bad year, in a big urban city, we have probably about, as far as black murders or homicides, we have probably about between 2,500 and 3,000. We have like basically about 50 million people black people in this country. So that's about 0.0006%. It's not even a 10%. The narrative that's being said is totally, again, not dilute anybody's life. The narrative that's being said, it paints a picture, which is not good for us. I despise it because people kill who they closest to. White people kill white people; they live closer to them. Black people do the same thing. It's not all related to the gun violence either. But I also want to add, if it wasn't for some of these men that's been on your show tonight, and as bad as they think it is now, which is not as bad as they portray it. Think of how much more worse it would be, because it's a lot of killings that's not happening because of the type of men you have on the show tonight.
Right.
Your cousin, these guys. So, but see, we I want to just change that narrative where we talk. Let's talk more about the work that's being done that's stopping these things from happening compared to the incidents that are happening, because that image is not a good look, and it's not a fair one either.
No, you're absolutely right, man. Like I said, Dwayne, I hope that
every one person gets shot in this neighborhood. I'm talking about every day. Every day. We do not even leave out the house without a prevention program, without a prevention plan. And even though it gets exhausting, we can't never stop, man. We can't never stop. Because the main thing we want to convey to these youngsters, man, quit involving killing these kids and these parents, man. Quit shooting these women and shooting these kids. And it was a time this was unheard of. This was unheard of, man. And so, this pandemic is not making it easy. Because it's hard to talk to them because they ain't got no gloves and they ain't got no mask. And you got to wear a mask and you got to go in the belly of the beast to try to talk to them, which is not easy. So this ain't no good time. So for every day, you got to put your hand in the hands of God and just continue to pray, man, and keep making your efforts heard. Because going with this pandemic, man, it ain't easy trying to protect yourself so you don't carry nothing back home, you understand, or to work, and try to talk to these young guys, man, and try to prevent some of this violence. And believe me, it's a whole lot of prevention work being done, but you can't stop everybody. You can't stop everybody. Somebody still is gonna upset the wave and rough the ripple. And so you just got to do what you can, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do what you can, and just try to pray about the rest of them.
Hey, you know what? And that's really the best way to say it, man. We do what we can, and the part we can't do, we got to pray for. You're exactly right, man. I tell you what, I salute Benny Lee. I salute Mr. Melvin Lamb. I salute Mr. Shaquan Davis for coming on tonight, man. I give you all my respect and honor. The Heavy Hitters Radio Show family, appreciate you, Miss Davis, by the way, or excuse me, Miss Smith. Out there in Philly, I see she signed in. The big sis signed in. There's some other folks that I can't. There's just their phone numbers. They must be new to us. But man, I am glad that you all joined us tonight. I'm glad that you all were a part of this conversation, man. And the history that we got, from these gentlemen was phenomenal. So Shaquan, where can folks help Fintown Academy? Like, how can we help them?
Well, right now we got a few programs that we are getting in order, like I said, our self-defense classes, and then more so information programs. You guys, from the start, you guys can follow us on Facebook, Fintown Academy. I mean, just kind of like just look out for future programs, and then if we put out something that we might need signatures for, or we might need things to go kind of viral, share. For the most part, I try to do everything as less monetary as possible. But there might be those times where GoFundMe might spike up. So any little bit helps, 50 cents a quarter, doesn't really matter. It all goes to something good. And then also, what also helps is if you want to partner in any kind of way. Hey, we need somebody to come speak here. Hey, we want to bring your program to this school or to this spot, or just any way that we can get more out into the community is one of the biggest helps that I say can happen. It's like if you need help, then that helps us because we're here to help.
All right, we definitely appreciate that, Mr. Moment, Mr. Webster. I think you guys should probably invite this young man to the call on Saturdays, because I think it sounds like he can be an asset.
Hey, that would be good. Yeah, you put his info in the chat box. Yeah,
If you want, you can look up Fentown, or what we can do is I can get it. Can I get it from Kwame, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, you can get my information from Facebook. Just Shaquan Davis on there. I'll pop right up. But also, it depends on what time that conference call is. Because I do another conference call with a nonprofit organization in Chicago on Saturday.
This one is at 12.
Okay.
So the one at 12 o'clock on Saturdays. It's supposed to be an hour, and it usually goes about 2.5 or 3.
Okay.
It is centered around the younger people. We actually, the call is centered around the younger people giving their views on a rare topics.
Okay. I'm definitely. I'll probably be there for the hour. Probably hop into the other conference call, which starts at 1, which is 12 Chicago time, and then do my update with them. And then if you guys are still going strong, hop back into your conference call.
Oh, that'd be dope, man. Totally appreciate that.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Hey, I tell you what, thank you, Mr. Davis. We appreciate you, man. It looks like you one of them young fellas, everybody else had to get off to do stuff. You just kept on just doing what you got to do and still staying on. So we appreciate that, man. That's for real boots on the ground right there.
No problem.
Hey, man, I tell you what, this is Heavy Hitters Radio Show Run. It looks like you and I are the only ones left. D-Lo just called me, but I can't answer the phone, obviously, because I'm in the middle of a show. But, Run, what's your take on tonight, Run?
Man, I felt like it was so informative. I feel like I need a pocket-sized Benny Lee to just speak some life into me every day, and just charge on. So I thought that the history was super interesting, and I think that there was a lot of good information. I'm hoping that people will reach out and ask questions after hearing our show tonight. And
Don't make you mad on get you like that.
Keep talking.
I'm done.
All right, outstanding. So yeah, man.
I see Run EMC. At first, I thought when I first looked at it, I say Run DMC.
It's close.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Lamb. Any final words from you, sir?
Hey man, look. This is what I truly believe in my heart, man. That just like we're gonna get through this pandemic, we're gonna get through this violence, man. And I know love conquers all, man. And if we keep dealing with these youngsters with love, man, eventually, man, I know if God changed my mind, changed my heart, changed my life, He can change theirs too, man. I just got to every day, man. I got to keep showing up, keep participating, man, and hope things get better, man.
Outstanding. And that you know what, that is the truth. I mean, for like I said, for some of us, man, we're gonna be council members and we're gonna stand we're gonna be in the background trying to make decisions and try to help out those warriors that are in the front, supporting them the best way we can, along with our allies, where we got some great information on how to be an ally tonight, on things that they can do. We've had some history that is unprecedented, probably. I would dare say unprecedented history on street organizations that and where they came from, and then even from my small understanding of some of the street organizations and representatives from the conservatives, which are kind of the new young group that is mobilizing and doing some things in a different way. And man, I don't feel like this is Moose. This is Moose's own opinion. This is a new segment called Moose's Opinion. I'm not sure that I see the change in my lifetime. But my hope is that my children do. So, which means I'm hoping that we're one generation removed from where folks like Shaquan Davis and others can move around and not have issues with the police. My hope is that folks like my sons, who are 26, 22, and 17, will not be brutalized by folks in the world, whether it be police or just Joe citizen that doesn't like black men. My hope is that they get treated with respect and dignity at all times, just like everybody else. Will we ever be in charge? When I mean we, I mean the populace of people that think that we should be all in unity. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced right now that the powers that be currently, they're going to fight tooth and nail to not let go. Any of us fight tooth and nail when you're in charge of something. You fight tooth and nail to not let it go. So that's what's happening with these folks. Folks, whatever you believe, you listen to us, because we had a guy hit in on our chat on Twitter that I don't even know who he is, and he looks like an older pilgrim man. That's what we just say. We don't say white. We say pilgrim. He's an older pilgrim man that must listen to our show, that clicked in about the sound. Hey, if you turn mics up, people can hear you, So shout out to Jay Ron for listening. Shout out to Big Gates for listening tonight as well. I think that I come through very clear, but I think everybody else is struggling a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. So hopefully they'll hear their names and we'll go forward from there. Man, great show today. Everyone that chimed in, thank you, Mr. Melvin Lamb, for giving us history, talking to us about the history of your organization. Thanks to Mr. Benny Lee for giving us his history of his organization and the combination of the two. Thanks to Mr. Ike Taylor for chiming in tonight and giving us his history. Man, we like I told you, when I put this show out or when it goes out for people to listen to, I think that somehow we got to figure out how some children that are these gang members these days can listen or watch this show so that they can get some history and understand that, man, they're doing it wrong. You know what? Call Mr. Davis and figure out how to do it the right way. He's young like y'all and he's doing stuff. You know what I mean? And it sounds like he can dance and fight. Them dudes are dangerous. You can dance and fight. You're real dangerous, man, by the way. So I don't even want to mess with a dude that can dance and fight. So, I don't mess with that. But anyway, so let's try to figure this out. And remember, July 31st. I got to make sure I look it up again. I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, 31st.
But July 31st, they are at Hovey Street, what is it called? Hovey Street Church of Christ, 2338 Hovey Street, Indiana, 46218, July 31st from 6 to 8. There will be Benny Lee and Ike Taylor, and it sounds like now Mr. Melvin Lamb is going to make the trip down to speak at.
I'm gonna call Benny when I get off from here, and let him know I'm gonna come down there with him.
Man, that's gonna be cool. You know what? If I think I'll be around that day, I'm there. You know, I'm there. I'm definitely gonna check that out. And it's sponsored by the New African Black Panther Party. And then I see Fintown is on here, and some other organizations that I can't tell who they are on this flyer. But we have a flyer. Matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll put the flyer out. I'll put the flyer out on the heavy hitters for you guys too, so that people can see that. And there you go, man. Hey, this is the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. Before we do that, Shaquan, Mr. Davis, do you have anything? Uh-oh. I think we lost you. Is he muted? Uh-huh. No, he's not. There you go.
I was.
Okay.
No, not really, man. I'm excited to see whoever decides to come out for the 31st. Like I told everybody, I'm in Indianapolis. I stay in LA as well. Cause that's where I do my entertainment career.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm back and forth, so you know what I mean, and I travel. So if anybody ever needs any help, any kind of questions, any partnership I want to do as far as working with my Fenton Academy, any kind of history lessons I might need or want, as far as other things, my ideals, it doesn't really matter. I'm always open and willing to build with everybody.
Shaquan.
Yes, sir.
My son do that too. Bishop Ford. That's the moniker he used. Bishop Ford. And he got videos on YouTube on the Bishop Ford. He do that rap and all that stuff too. He be going to California, all out there and here too.
Yeah, I'm super deep out there, so you know what I'm saying, if he ever wants to connect or he needs someone, even just a support system, I'm right there. I'll come to shows and everything.
Is it Ford, Mr. Lamb? Like Ford?
Bishop Ford, yeah. Like the highway. Yeah, Bishop Ford.
All right. Well, definitely, we will check it out. Hey, I tell you what, man. Thanks to Mr. Moment, Mr. Webster coming in to Indiana.
In fact, I'm finna call Benny now and let him know while we on the line. I'm finna call him and let him know.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Mr. Moment, Mr. Webster, man. Indiana Mentor Network. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We definitely appreciate it. Antoine's in here. He's I don't know why he doesn't show his face or anything. He was on there for a minute. And the big sis, she's probably asleep. So hey man, shout out to all the neighbors of the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. Again, we appreciate y'all tonight. Thanks for coming all the way from Philly. Look, she had to check me. That's actually the big sis, like my big sister, so she's gonna check the Moose. Hey, I'm Moose right now. You can't be checking me. You can't be checking Moose, man.
Hey, Big Moose.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You know the brother used to run the hundreds. He used to control the hundreds in Chicago, what they call the Wild Hundreds.
The Wild Hundreds?
Yeah, he was a stone. He come from the west side. That was his name, Big Moose.
Really?
Oh, yeah, Moose.
See? He's cool. He's cool like me. And Shaquan to get with you so I can get some history because I don't know who he is.
Yeah, man. I'm young in the game, but I get taught by a lot of the.
Yeah, tell me, Shaquan, did you know Big Moose?
The T, right?
Yeah.
My mentor is a T, so I know a pretty good amount about Moose.
Yeah. I was telling him when I first heard Big Moose, I said, wait a minute.
Is that him? Nah.
I was like, Moose, hold on.
No, it's not him. But he's got a great name. Hey, I tell you what, we got about 2 minutes to go. Mr. Lamb, thank you. Mr. Lee, thank you. Mr. Taylor, thank you. Mr. Davis, thank you for being here. Mr. Moment, Mr. Webster, man, we appreciate y'all. Shout out to Philly. Shout out to Philly up there, man. Miss Smith for joining us tonight. We definitely appreciate it. Hey, man, it's the Heavy Hitters Radio Show. Remember, we are where you are.
So get comfortable.
And come on in. We're not doing the rest of it because it's weird.
How often y'all on?
We're on Tuesday nights at 8, sir. But you can catch us. You can catch us on all the podcast sites. Anywhere you listen to a podcast, we're on there. iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio. If you got an iPhone, and matter of fact, this show right here, will be on YouTube as well, so you'll be able to watch it and listen.
So what's the name of it?
The Heavy Hitters Radio Show. You can find us at Independent Radio, INDYPNDNT, Independent Radio.
Heavy Hitters Independent Radio.
Yes, sir.
All right, I got you.
Hey, thank you so much for being with us tonight, man. We appreciate you.
All right, man. Y'all stay blessed and stay safe.
For sure. You do the same, man. Mask up.